Chapter 1821. Universe Galaxy. Hearing what Jian Wuxia said, Hall Master Yuan and the other two Hall Masters gawked. Jian Wuxia was an expert on the 61st place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. He had absolute fighting power of an emperor god. But his servant was more powerful than he was? That's great. Another fighting power of emperor god. Hall Master Yuan exclaimed in surprise. With so many Dao soldiers and a powerful servant, Palace Master, you brought about a great surprise to Lineage of Star indeed. Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nie Yin was excited. However, the three of them never paid attention to what Jian Wuxia said. He is stronger than I am now. One should know that Jian Wuxia had received countless opportunities as he wandered alone in the ancient battlefield for 6,000 years. He had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he was no longer comparable to how he was before. While Jian Yi was even stronger than he was then. How could Jian Yi's fighting power be as simple as an ordinary emperor god? Palace Master, Hall Master Gu Xan, Hall Master Nie Yin, there's another thing that I have to tell you, Hall Master Yuan suddenly said. Jian Wuxia and the other two Hall Masters immediately looked at Hall Master Yuan again. Actually, there is another trump card in Lineage of Star, Hall Master Yuan said. Oh. Jian Wuxia raised his eyebrows and revealed a shocked expression. Hall Master Yuan started explaining. The three of you should know that I am very special in Lineage of Star. According to Lineage of Star's rules, only one who possesses fighting power of an almighty could become a Hall Master. However, I am not an almighty, nor do I have fighting power of an almighty, but I became a Hall Master. Jian Wuxia, Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nie Yin were interested in what Hall Master Yuan was going to say. They were curious about Hall Master Yuan's existence. They had tried asking before, but Hall Master Yuan never answered. My identity is supposed to be a secret. In Lineage of Star, only Master of Star Palace knows. However, it is a crucial moment and I cannot hide anymore. Everyone, please take a look, Hall Master Yuan said as he let out a unique aura from his body. The aura spread outside the hall and blended with the boundless galaxy flawlessly. This is... Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nie Yin were dumbfounded. Weapon spirit. Jian Wuxia were shocked. Yes, the aura that Hall Master Yuan gave out then only belonged to spirit's weapon. Plus, his aura blended flawlessly with the boundless galaxy that Lineage of Star was in. In other words, Hall Master Yuan was the weapon's spirit of the boundless galaxy. How could it be? Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nie Yin were in disbelief. They had been making wild guesses about Hall Master Yuan's identity before, but they had never expected Hall Master Yuan to be a weapon spirit. Looking at the few people's reactions, Hall Master Yuan wasn't surprised, but he smiled and said, Everyone, do you remember that Master of Star Palace once mentioned before he left to go to Ancient Mystery Land? He said that back when he went to 7-Star Realm, not only had he found the secret skill of 7-Star, but he also obtained a unique treasure. The unique treasure is me, the boundless galaxy that engulfed the lair of Lineage of Star. However, my real name is actually Universe Galaxy. The three of them were dumbfounded at the newfound knowledge. The boundless galaxy that Lineage of Star was located in was really unique. Not only could it nurture a meta beast on its own, but the spiritual influence of heaven and earth, and intensity of doctrine, were also much stronger than other places. However, they never once thought that the galaxy was a treasure from Ancient Mystery Land. Jian Wuxia took a deep breath and smiled. Hall Master Yuan, you kept the secret well. I had no choice. My existence is unique, and it isn't common. If this were to be exposed, the people who cast greedy eyes over the treasure and resources of Lineage of Star would be even more, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wuxia understood too. At the same time, he finally knew why Hall Master Yuan's position in Lineage of Star was so unique. As a weapon spirit, he was of course absolutely loyal to Master of Star Palace. The Master of Star Palace was also at ease when he passed the affairs in Lineage of Star to Hall Master Yuan. Although the outside world knew of Hall Master Yuan's existence, they had never once seen Hall Master Yuan fight, because Hall Master Yuan almost never left Lineage of Star. Even if he were to head out, It was merely his consciousness embodiment. Hall Master Yuan, you said earlier that your existence was also the trump card of Lineage of Star. How does it work? Hall Master Nyeyun asked. Universe galaxy that I made isn't as simple as you imagine it to be. The power that is displayed on a normal day is merely a fraction of it. If there were to be strong enemies that came to attack, Universe galaxy could turn into a formation. Unless a great emperor came personally, there won't be anyone who could barge into the galaxy, Hall Master Yuan said with confidence. Jian Wushuang and the other two Hall Master were thrilled. Haha. I never knew that Lineage of Star had another powerful trump card. Hall Master Nyeyun laughed. Only when a great emperor comes personally could he resolve the formation. If there was no real reason, why would a great emperor come to Lineage of Star personally? With this trump card, no matter what kind of danger we are in, at least Lineage of Star's base can be maintained. Hall Master Gu Xan smiled too. Hall Master Yuan then said regretfully, it is a pity that I was severely damaged during the war. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth in this world is so thin that I have yet to recover. If I were to be able to recover parts of my power, the benefits that Lineage of Star wouldn't be limited as it is now. Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nyeyun didn't react much to what he said, but Jian Wushuang quivered in surprise. Spiritual influence of heaven and earth? The spiritual influence of heaven and earth in Green Fire World was much stronger than 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Along with the formation, it was on a constant increase. If he were to be able to move Universe Galaxy there, of course it was merely a thought that Jian Wushuang had. With these trump cards, if Lineage of Star were to be in trouble, we should be confident enough. Jian Wushuang smiled and turned to ask, Hall Master Yuan, the news about Master of Star Palace's death has yet to spread, right? Besides the few of us, no one else knows. Hall Master Yuan nodded. However, even if we hide the news on purpose, people will find out in no time. After all, Sanctuary Alliance has experts keeping watch outside the Ancient Mystery Land. Whoever enters Ancient Mystery Land, but doesn't come out from Ancient Mystery Land is recorded. Now that the Ancient Mystery Land is still open, naturally no one knows. However, when the Ancient Mystery Land closes, Sanctuary Alliance will notice that the Master of Star Palace didn't come out, and they'd 80% determine that the Master of Star Palace had passed away then. If so, we still have time to prepare ourselves. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Chapter 1822 Desperate Times Call for Desperate Measures. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xan, Hall Master Nyeyun. Jian Wushuang looked around. Before the news of Master of Star Palace's death breaks out, we shouldn't disclose the news of me being the new palace master. In front of the elderlies, continue to call me Hall Master Wushuang, just like before. We shall hide this news for as long as possible. Yes. Hall Master Yuan and the other Hall Masters nodded politely. Besides, I have an idea. I'm not sure if it is workable, Jian Wushuang said. Idea? The three of them looked at Jian Wushuang. Hall Master Yuan, according to what you said earlier, Lineage of Star has a lot of enemies. Once the news about Palace Master's death spreads, the enemies will flood in. If so, instead of waiting for them to attack, why not we try our best to exterminate all the enemies before the news spreads? Jian Wushuang's gaze grew cold. You mean strike first and gain the upper hand? Hall Master Yuan was stunned. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Anyway, after the news spreads, they'll definitely attack us. Why don't we seize the time when everyone thinks Master of Star Palace is still alive, and ride on the deterrent force, as we figure out ways to exterminate them first. Even if we can't kill them all, we can at least take off part of the pressure when they charge at us in the future. Plus, these people were Lineage of Star's enemies anyway. We of Lineage of Star could kill them, and it would be fair and reasonable. That's true. Hall Master Yuan's eyes glowed with joy. If we kill them one by one during normal times, there is no guarantee that they would hold back their attacks, as they would involve other innocent people. To refrain from shooting at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. In the end, they might unite to fight against Lineage of Star. But at this point in time, as they are going to attack us anyway, so we shall take action first and exterminate as many as possible. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Jian Wushuang's expression was cold. Hall Master Yuan, I shall assign this to you. Those major forces, we shall not take them into consideration now. We want to first deal with those solo experts. Figure out a way to find out the location of all of the solo experts that harbor hatred against Lineage of Star. If Lineage of Star can't find out the information, bring sufficient rewards and ask Vientiane Tower to do it. In this life and death situation we shouldn't be stingy. Take out everything Lineage of Star has. This must be done quickly. After we find out their locations, I will exterminate the Almighties personally. As for real gods, Hall Master Gu Exayan and Hall Master Nie Yin, please take care of them. No problem. Yes, Palace Master. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Exayan, Hall Master Nie Yin nodded heavily. Hall Masters, let me remind you again. Lineage of Star is on the brink of life and death. Hence, you must be extremely careful in your actions. Jian Wushuang looked at the 3 Hall Masters, then he waved. Go ahead. The 3 Hall Masters then immediately left. In the hall, Jian Wushuang sat alone, and his gaze was unusually cold. I never expected Lineage of Star to have so many hidden dangers. Master of Star Palace alone carried so much pressure. He was an amazing man. But now, Master of Star Palace has passed away. As I have become the new Palace Master, this pressure will be on me. As long as I am alive, no one can lay a finger on Lineage of Star. Lineage of Star really paid a great price. They gave Vientiane Tower a great reward. With the bountiful reward, Vientiane Tower had activated the information gathering mechanism. They then found the solo experts that harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star. Very soon, a list of solo experts was presented to Jian Wushuang. Palace Master. These are the experts who have harbored deep-seated hatred against Lineage of Star over the years, and they will definitely pound at Lineage of Star the moment the news about Master of Star Palace's death spreads. There is a total of 16 of them, Hall Master Yuan said politely. 16? So many? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. The list doesn't stop there. Hall Master Yuan shook his head and said, these 16 solo experts were only those that Vientiane Tower found for now. There are some that disappeared long ago. No one knows if they are dead or alive. It is rather difficult to find them. Jian Wushuang sighed. Lineage of Star really had many enemies. Of course, not only Lineage of Star. Any major forces who stood in eternal chaotic world for so many years would have many enemies. Lineage of Star had many enemies because the Master of Star Palace had once used the secret skill of Star Palace to massacre wantonly. 16 experts made up of 14 Sir Gods and 2 Emperor Gods, Jian Wushuang said. I shall move now to kill the experts. Palace Master, please be careful on the way, Hall Master Yuan exhorted. Jian Wushuang had then replaced the Master of Star Palace and became the new mainstay of Lineage of Star. The mainstay definitely couldn't afford to collapse. Otherwise, Lineage of Star would definitely be destroyed, and there would be no space for struggle. I will. Jian Wushuang nodded and prepared to set off. Of course, he brought Jian Yi with him when he departed. With his power and existence of Jian Yi, when they looked for the people on the list one by one, there was almost no one who could escape if there weren't any unexpected events. The first target, Sir God Xingxiang. He is the nearest to Lineage of Star. He is in Red Dragon Sanctuary in the 10 Sanctuaries. Rumble. The ancient silver spaceship traveled from Universe Galaxy in Lineage of Star at a terrifying speed and sped forward. Red Dragon Sanctuary was engulfed in a huge ancient forest. There was a lofty black castle. The black castle was huge, and it covered an expanse of about a few million miles. Such a huge castle had more than 100,000 maidservants and footmen. At that moment, in the middle of the Black Castle, there was a banquet. At the banquet, there were a few hundred beautiful concubines dancing and serving. The main character of the banquet was an overbearing bearded man in black armor. The man was Sir God Xingxiang. He had become a famous top expert many years ago. Although he couldn't be listed on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list, he was extremely close to it. Besides Sir God Xingxiang, there were another 2 Sir Gods at the banquet. The two Sir God's auras weren't any weaker than Sir God Xingxiang's. Rumble. A huge silver spaceship appeared in the void before the castle. A young man carrying a sword stepped out of the spaceship. The moment he appeared, he swept out with his soul power. He looked at everything in the castle below. Sir God Songyu and Sir God Qisha are here too? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows as an imposing aura soared from his eyes. I don't care about them. Whoever blocks my way, I will kill them all together. Chapter 1823 Extermination. In the depth of the Black Castle, at the dinner banquet. Brother Songyu, Brother Qisha. Thank you so much, Sir God Xingxiang said heartily with a cup of wine in his hand. No big deal, Brother Xingxiang. It's as easy as lifting a hand. It's nothing. Plus, we are friends, Sir God Qisha said. I work for rewards. Sir God Xingxiang. You offered enough rewards and I would of course do my best. Sir God Songyu smiled gently. Haha, Brother Songyu is very realistic, Sir God Xingxiang laughed. The three Sir Gods were chatting casually. Suddenly, Sir God Xingxiang, come out and greet death. The bright and loud voice that contained a terrifying pressure instantly covered the entire castle. It was extremely imposing. Countless maids and servants in the castle were shivering in fear because of the pressure. There were some beauties, who were dancing at the banquet, who knelt down in terror as well. The three of them who had been chatting earlier suddenly looked unhappy. The smile on Sir God Xingxiang's face froze. Hung. There were three fierce auras that burst out simultaneously. The three Sir Gods soared up, and appeared in the void above. They stopped and instantly noticed the young man carrying a sword. Real god? Sir God Songyu was surprised. Although he is only a real god, his aura is terrifyingly strong, much stronger than the three of ours. If I'm not mistaken, he should be the super genius from lineage of star, Jian Wushuang, who was listed on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list, Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor, the 61st place on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list? Sir God Qisha squinted his eyes. On the other hand, Sir God Xingxiang's face grew grave. Jian Wushuang, you have guts. Your lineage of star once killed 3 of my lineal disciples. I didn't find trouble with you, but you barged into my place? Humph, that's because you assassinated one of lineage of star's expert first. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold. Save that bullshit. I came here today to kill you. Haha, you put it in such a nice way. Who do you think you are? The old monster of Star Palace? Sir God Xingxiang sneered as he looked at the other 2 persons next to him. Brother Songyu, Brother Qisha. Lineage of Star is being such a bully. I wonder if the 2 of you are willing to lend a helping hand. I, Xingxiang, will remember what you did. If there were to be any help needed in the future, I would not refuse to help. Although Sir God Xingxiang was reluctant to admit inferiority, he knew that it was impossible for him to match evenly with Jian Wushuang, who was listed on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list that possess fighting power of an Emperor God alone. Hence, he naturally dragged in the other 2 Sir Gods next to him. The 2 Sir Gods were like him, they were top Sir Gods. Especially Sir God Songyu, who was also listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list as a Sir God, but at a lower rank. He once fought with an Emperor God and he survived. In addition, there was Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha. The 3 of them teamed up might not be able to do anything to Jian Wushuang, but they definitely could fight a battle with Jian Wushuang. Hearing what Sir God Xingxiang had to say, Sir God Qisha agreed without hesitation. Brother Xingxiang, don't worry about it. If Jian Wushuang wants to lay a finger on you, he has to receive approval from the 2 of us. Sir God Songyu hesitated for a while but he replied, Jian Wushuang, Qisha and I accepted Xingxiang's invitation to be here. We have yet to take care of the task on hand. I can't let you kill him. So please leave. If you won't leave, stay and die together. Jian Wushuang had soaring murderous intention. Arrogant. Sir God Qisha was furious. Jian Wushuang, you are too arrogant. Sir God Songyu was furious too. Haha. As Jian Wushuang is asking for trouble, the 3 of us shall grant his wish. Sir God Xingxiang smirked coldly. Instantly, the 3 figures turned into 3 rays of flowing lights that burst out. The 3 of them knew Jian Wushuang's power, and they didn't dare to act recklessly. The moment they attacked, they went all out. Sir God Xingxiang's body was covered by a layer of magic clouds, while there were 8 ancient shadows that appeared behind him. The 8 ancient shadows were huge, and his body increased to 3 meters tall. With a malicious smile, the 8 ancient shadows pressed at Jian Wushuang with boundless terrifying aura. Sir God Qisha was soaring with imposing aura. His body moved, and there was instantly a huge storm around him. Boundless murderous aura swept out. Die! 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 A soaring sword intention filled the air, while he held a creepy crimson blade, and turned illusionary in silence. Sir God Song Yu, who was the strongest, suddenly increased in size to 10 zhang tall. He was showering in warm sunlight, as though he was the ruler of the universe. He was wearing a gentle smile, and everyone found it friendly. However, he already had strong divine power concentrated in his hands. The bolt of divine power was enough to split the sky and break the earth. Looking at the 3 Sir God launching attacks at the same time, Jian Wushuang's eyes burst out lights. Courting death, Jian Wushuang roared without taking a step back, and he flipped his palm. There was billowing divine power, with ancient tribe bloodline power, that suddenly burst out to his ultimate limit. Hong! He swung his palm. It was as though his palm contained the entire reincarnation. It was reincarnation palm, derived from the terrifying palm that one star man had left in his head the other day. Walala! The void shattered, and a huge palm print extended and grabbed Sir God Xingxiang at the far front. Sir God Xingxiang let out an angry roar, and the 8 ancient shadows behind him let out an earth-shattering roar as well. However, the very next moment it stopped. The huge palm print that contained the entire reincarnation covered Sir God Xingxiang's body, including the 8 ancient shadows altogether, and it gripped tightly. Bang! The 8 ancient shadows collapsed at the same time. Sir God Xingxiang only let out a groan in pain at his last moment, before his divine body was crushed under the palm. With one palm, Sir God Xingxiang died on the spot. How is it possible? Sir God Song Yu and Sir God Qisha stared. They knew that Jian Wushuang was powerful and possessed fighting power of an emperor god. Hence, the 3 of them had teamed up. However, Jian Wushuang had ignored the 2 of them and killed Sir God Xingxiang with one simple palm. Such power! Be careful! Sir God Song Yu suddenly spoke in terror. What? Sir God Qisha's face grew grave. Just as he came back to reality, there was a resplendent golden light that appeared behind him. The golden light gave out a boundless, chilly, brilliant gleam. It was Jian Wushuang's Hongjun golden sword. There was only one Hongjun golden sword, but that one sword made Sir God Qisha feel instant hopelessness. Pst! A golden light swept past and Hongjun golden sword pierced Sir God Qisha's head straightway. Sir God Qisha's power had yet to be displayed. The surrounding storm had yet to burst out, but he had already followed Sir God Xingxiang's footstep to death. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang's body turned illusory, and he appeared before Sir God Song Yu in the end. Chapter 1824. Spare my life. The entire universe became quiet. Sir God Song Yu, who was still bathing in the sunlight, originally wore a gentle smile, but then he couldn't smile anymore. The 3 top Sir Gods had joined forces, but in the end, in the blink of an eye, Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha were instantly killed. Too strong, he was too strong. Sir God Song Yu stared at Jian Wushuang. The 2 of them are top Sir Gods. Even if a true Emperor God came, it would require some time before they killed them. But Jian Wushuang did an instant kill. A top Sir God couldn't even struggle in his hands. With such power, I'm afraid he is extremely close to peak Emperor God level. Previously, Sir God Song Yu, Sir God Qisha, and Sir God Xingxiang had thought Jian Wushuang was still only the expert in the 61st place in Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, who could evenly match Emperor God Tian Shao. They didn't know how greatly Jian Wushuang had improved in the past 6,000 years. Forget about the rest. His possession of ancient tribe bloodline by bloodline inheritance from Wuhan, and with his power of bloodline in combination with his divine power, Jian Wushuang was 2 times stronger than an emperor god in terms of power and strength. With such ferocious power and strength, Any casual reincarnation palm could exterminate Sir God Xingxiang, like slaughtering a chicken. It was true. To Jian Wushuang, killing a top Sir God was too easy. There was no difference to killing a chicken. Sir God Songyu took a deep breath and flashed a smile. At the same time, he bowed politely to Jian Wushuang. Thank you for your mercy, Sword Emperor. Sir God Songyu knew that Jian Wushuang could easily kill him in an instant if he wanted to. Although he had once survived a fight with an Emperor God, the Emperor God was just the weakest of his level. He couldn't be compared favorably with Jian Wushuang. But the fact Jian Wushuang didn't attack meant that Jian Wushuang didn't intend to kill him. It is because of Purple Sky Palace and Emperor God Zizong that I spare you. I hope that there won't be a repeat of what happened today, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Yes. Sir God Songyu nodded continuously. Jian Wushuang waved and took Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha's dead bodies and their treasures. Then he left. Sir God Songyu then let out a sigh of relief after he watched Jian Wushuang's figure disappeared from his sight. Gate of Hell. I, Songyu, just took a trip to the Gate of Hell. Luckily, I am fortunate enough. It seems that Sword Emperor wasn't as aggressive and lawless as he was pictured in the rumors. He had scruples with Purple Sky Palace and Emperor God Zizong. Sir God Songyu muttered. The three top Sir Gods. Sir God Xingxiang was Jian Wushuang's target, so he had to be killed. Sir God Qisha was merely a solo expert, and he had no background. Hence, Jian Wushuang could kill him with no scruples. But the two Sir Gods were different to him. They had a backer, so Jian Wushuang let them off the hook. However, with Jian Wushuang's power and lineage of star behind him, even if he killed me, Purple Sky Palace couldn't do anything about him even if they were furious. What is his concern? Sir God Songyu was confused, but he immediately reported what had happened to Emperor God Zizong behind him. Songyu, you teamed up with Sir God Qisha and Sir God Xingxiang, but Jian Wushuang instantly killed the other two? Emperor God Zizong was surprised at the news. Yes, Jian Wushuang is terrifyingly powerful, far stronger than when he fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace 6,000 years ago, Sir God Songyu said. Thanks. He is truly an expert. In just a short time span, his power increased to another level. Maybe to us, 6,000 years is only a snap of our fingers. But to Jian Wushuang, 6,000 years is enough for him to improve tremendously. Emperor Zizong sighed. According to the power that he displayed, he should be listed in the top 50 or 40 on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. Such a figure shouldn't be provoked. Luckily, he left you some leeway and didn't kill you. Otherwise, Purple Sky Palace really couldn't do anything about him. Palace Master. Isn't Jian Wushuang devoid of scruples, all this while unwilling to fight over the smallest trifles? I took the initiative to provoke him, but he spared my life. Why? Did he really hesitate because of Purple Sky Palace? Sir God Songyu asked in confusion. Who knows? As he showed mercy, Purple Sky Palace shall accept it. From today, do not become hostile towards Lineage of Star. Even if Lineage of Star's disciples were to be in our hands, we shall let them off the hook, Emperor God Zizong said. I understand, Sir God Songyu nodded. Just as Sir God Songyu was talking to Sir God Zizong, Jian Wushuang had already left Red Dragon Sanctuary, via a wormhole, and departed to his next destination. As for the reason he had showed mercy to Sir God Songyu, it wasn't because Jian Wushuang had a good temper and was easy to talk to, but because Lineage of Star was in a different situation. When the Master of Star Palace was still around, all forces had scruples. Jian Wushuang could just kill Sir God Songyu. But then, the Master of Star Palace had passed away. Even a slight bit of the news spreading would attract many forces and experts to attack instantly. At such a crucial moment, Jian Wushuang naturally tried not to offend any major forces. For instance, Purple Sky Palace was considered a major force, and there was an Emperor God who was in commanding position. Although Emperor God Zizong's power was ordinary, Jian Wushuang didn't want to offend him unless necessary. The next target, East Royal Sanctuary, Sir God Linggu. Jian Wushuang's eyes filled with murderous intention. Very soon, a god killer descended in East Royal Sanctuary. In the vast void, Sword Emperor, Spare me and I guarantee that I wouldn't be hostile towards lineage of star. A gray-robed, cold-looking woman fled ahead. As she ran, she shouted, I'm sorry. Since you slaughtered countless cultivators in a city of star land to take revenge, the resentment between lineage of star and you can't be resolved. You have to die. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate. He performed secret skill of dragon blood and caught up to Sir God Linggu. He then killed her straight away with a thunderous method. When Jian Wushuang had killed Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha previously, he had been so quick that the two Sir Gods didn't even have a chance to send any messages. Plus, Sir God Songyu had appreciated Jian Wushuang's mercy and hadn't spread the news. But then Jian Wushuang had killed Sir God Linggu before everyone's eyes. The news naturally spread. In an instant, the entire Sanctuary Alliance shook because of the name Sword Emperor once again. Chapter 1825 Target, Emperor God. Massacre. Jian Wushuang had gone on a crazy massacre. For the 16 almighties on the name list, from the closest to the furthest, and from the earliest Sir God Xingxiang to Sir God Linggu, Jian Wushuang had gone to find all of them personally. In less than 100 years' time, Jian Wushuang had already found and killed 5 of those almighties. In no time, the Sanctuary Alliance was in an uproar. It's too frightening. This Jian Wushuang is really a lunatic. In less than 100 years' time, he has killed a total of 7 Sir Gods. If he were to continue his massacre at such a speed, all the Sir Gods in the eternal chaotic world would be killed by him in a split second. Among those 7 Sir Gods, 5 of them had huge grudges against the lineage of Star, and they were his targets. As for the other 2 people, they were killed by him as they obstructed him during his massacre. It is also very normal for him to kill his own enemies, since he is so powerful. However, I am only curious as to what the lineage of Star is trying to do. According to what I know, it's not just Jian Wushuang alone. The other 2 almighties of the lineage of Star have also taken action, and their targets are real gods who have huge grudges against the lineage of Star. The lineage of Star has made enemies out of many people, and it is not considered a big matter for them to get rid of some of them. However, their movements this time around are too big. In particular, Jian Wushuang has made it clear that he wanted to kill all the experts in the eternal chaotic world who have a huge grudge against the lineage of Star. The experts in all the powerhouses were all having a discussion, and they were trying to figure out the intentions of the lineage of Star. Their guesses were that the lineage of Star had done such things to either instill fear in everyone or to raise the reputation of Jian Wushuang. However, no one would direct their thinking toward the Star Palace Master. At the same time that the Sanctuary Alliance was in an uproar, an ancient, huge silver spaceship descended upon a holy kingdom. That Emperor God Jin Ming stays in this holy kingdom? As Jian Wushuang stood on the spaceship and looked at the holy kingdom in front of him, he laughed indifferently. Out of the 16 almighties in the name list, 14 of them were Sir Gods while the remaining 2 were Emperor Gods. For Jian Wushuang's massacre for the lineage of Star, all the targets that he had looked for so far were not determined by their abilities. Instead, all of them were determined by the distance between him and them. Previously, he had already killed 5 Sir Gods in the name list. At that time, it was the 6th person, and this person was an Emperor God. Emperor God Jin Ming is ranked 83rd in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, and he can be said to be at the bottom of the Emperor Gods. However, even though he is at the bottom, he is still a genuine Emperor God expert in the end. Jian Wushuang murmured. Master, do you need me to do it? Jian Yi, who was at the side, said with respect. No need. Jian Wushuang shook his head. You are a great trump card of mine, and you must not expose yourself unless it is really necessary. Moreover, it's just Emperor God Jin Ming, and I am not worried at all. With absolute confidence, Jian Wushuang activated the spaceship and entered the Holy Kingdom right away. In no time, Jian Wushuang came to a vast land that was floating in the air. Emperor God Jin Ming. The powerful god power that his ice-cold voice contained burst forth instantly. The vast land was the place where the capital of a holy kingdom was, and there were countless experts, which was inclusive of real gods in it. However, at that time, Under the pressure of Jian Wushuang's god power, these experts started to shiver in succession, as they were terrified and filled with grief. Oomph! All of a sudden, a cold snort which contained a tremendous amount of god power, as well could be heard, and it was comparable to Jian Wushuang's god power. After that, a golden-robed stalwart man rose high into the air slowly, and he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in a jiffy. As expected, Jian Wushuang, you have really come. Emperor God Jin Ming's eyes were glowing brilliantly with golden light, and he was staring at Jian Wushuang. Why? Emperor God Jin Ming seems to know that I will be coming? Jian Wushuang laughed. For your journey of massacre from the lineage of Star to here, you have killed a total of 7 Sir Gods. Among the 7 Sir Gods, 5 of them had huge grudges with your lineage of Star. As for the remaining 2 of them, they were killed by you since they obstructed you. Hence, it is obvious that your target is to kill some enemies of the lineage of Star. Moreover, the grudge between me and your lineage of Star will not end without death. Thus, how is it possible for you to let me off? Emperor God Jin Ming's voice was ice-cold. It's good that you know. Jian Wushuang had an ice-cold expression. Emperor God Jin Ming, do you want to kill yourself? Or do you want me to kill you personally? Kill myself? You are not worthy for me to do that. Emperor God Jin Ming sneered. Jian Wushuang, 6,000 years ago, you were ranked 61st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Now, after another 6,000 years, your abilities have risen greatly again, and you probably have the fighting capabilities of the top 50 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Therefore, you are definitely very close to the peak of an Emperor God. For a one-to-one battle, I would naturally not be your opponent. However, since I know that you will come to my doorstep, how could I not make any preparations at all? Oh, Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank. As soon as Emperor God Jin Ming's voice left his mouth, swoosh, a flittering light appeared from the void behind, and it appeared beside Emperor God Jin Ming instantly. It then stood side by side with Emperor God Jin Ming, and it was not weaker than Emperor God Jin Ming in the slightest bit. Moreover, it also emitted an aura that was slightly stronger than Emperor God Jin Ming. Upon seeing the person who had come, Jian Wushuang frowned. You are Emperor God Fan Yuan, who is ranked 61st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list? Emperor God Fan Yuan was an extremely powerful expert who traveled alone. More than 6,000 years ago, he had been ranked 61st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. However, after Jian Wushuang had become famous from his battle, he had been pushed downward to the 62nd rank. Sword Emperor, this is our first time meeting one another, and it's nice to meet you. Emperor God Fan Yuan laughed. Why? Could it be you also want to take advantage of this battle for your own personal gain? Jian Wushuang's expression did not change in the slightest. Haha. Jian Wushuang, you might not know that Fan Yuan and I have always been extremely good friends. This time around, since I know that you will come to my doorstep, I naturally got him to lend me a hand. Although your abilities are strong, with Fan Yuan and I, 2 Emperor Gods, teaming up, you probably wouldn't be able to overpower us. Moreover, you will not be able to do anything to Fan Yuan alone. Emperor God Jin Ming laughed coldly. Is that so? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Sword Emperor, for your battle with Emperor God Tian, Shao more than 6,000 years ago, your abilities are indeed not too bad. And it is not surprising for the Sanctuary Alliance to place you in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Moreover, it is too much for them to give you the 61st ranking, which is before me. You should know that I, Fan Yuan, have not fought in front of many people for many years. Thus, my real abilities will not be as simple as what the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list has described. Emperor God Fan Yuan shouted with a low voice. Everyone had an air of arrogance. Similarly, Emperor God Fan Yuan had one as well. Moreover, after reaching a level like his, one would pay more attention to their prestige. Jian Wushuang was merely a real god, who had trained for a short number of years. However, his ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list was actually higher than his? How could he contend with that? Chapter 1826 Emperor God Fan Yuan. Jian Wushuang, I will let you know today that you are only a joke in front of me. Emperor God Fan Yuan's voice was cold. Then, there was a fiery red spear that appeared in his hand. Rumble. A vast aura spread from his body. Emperor God Jin Ming next to him revealed a cold smile. He knew Emperor God Fan Yuan's fighting power clearly. The 62nd place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list? That had been so many years ago. I shall see then. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. I will not disappoint you. Emperor God Fan Yuan smirked and suddenly moved. He moved and left a unique trace in the void. When he appeared again, he was in front of Jian Wushuang. At the same time, he held his spear with both hands, and there was an ancient crimson ape that was roaring and giving out an intense, bloodthirsty aura. Crimson God 9 Spear. Die. 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 He spat the word 9 times continuously, and every word he uttered was heavy. The crimson spear in his hands stabbed out simultaneously too. There was a total of 9 stabs, and every stab could break the void easily and shook the universe. Crimson clouds swept out, and the entire sky was covered in crimson storm. Crimson God 9 Spear was Emperor God Fan Yuan's famous unique skill. Emperor God Fan Yuan attacked with full force when he attacked. Looking at the 9 spear shadows bursting at him like lightning, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and Blood Mountain sword suddenly was out of its scabbard. Wow! The sword shimmered and greeted the 9 spear shadows. Both collided in an instant. Bang! 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 9 deep clashes rang out almost simultaneously. When it stopped, the entire void collapsed, and there was a black hole that spread across a few million miles. The black hole swallowed everything in the universe. The terrifying strangling strength could easily tear anyone below Sir God level into pieces. In the core of the black hole, Emperor God Fan Yuan held a spear with one hand as his eyes glowed with soaring murderous intention, and his body gave out a bloodthirsty aura. He stared at the void in front of him. Did he die? Emperor God Jin Ming looked. Emperor God Fan Yuan's Crimson God 9 Spear. One was stronger than another. The 9 spears stabbed out simultaneously. Unless one was a peak Emperor God, there shouldn't be anyone who could block head-on. From Emperor God Jin Ming's viewpoint, as Jian Wushuang had opted to take the earlier hit head-on, even if he didn't die, he definitely would have been severely injured. But then, Virum, a cold sword light tore down all hindrances in front, and pierced the storm that was substantiated with divine power. Then, a figure walked out slowly after the sword light. What? Emperor God Fan Yuan's face changed. He was perfectly fine. Emperor God Jin Ming was shocked. Emperor God Fan Yuan, you spoke so confidently, but your power is only at this level? Jian Wushuang walked to him slowly, and he smirked in disdain. There was no trace of injury on his body. Emperor God Fan Yuan's face grew in distress. It seems that I have belittled you. Well, it's true. The entire Sanctuary Alliance said that your power has increased tremendously over the years. If so, you are qualified to try my strongest move. Strongest move? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Fan Yuan, are you going to use that move? Emperor God Jin Ming quivered. Emperor God Fan Yuan's strongest unique skill derived from an opportunity that he had obtained over the years. Through many years of comprehension, he had created that move, and it had not been long since he had created it. Emperor God Jin Ming was fortunate enough to witness someone strong enough to impress him, and Emperor God Fan Yuan was going to perform his strongest move. Jian Wushuang, die. There was a loud roar and Emperor God Fan Yuan's vigor rose suddenly, and he looked just like a bloody person. The crimson spear in his hands burst out a strange, monstrous light, and it pierced the void. There was a distance of tens of thousands of miles, but the crimson spear suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. A spear stabbed out that could destroy heaven and split the earth. Jian Wushuang had an illusion as though he was locked up, and no matter how he dodged, the spear would stab his heart. This spear is not too shabby. Jian Wushuang nodded, but in the next moment, he lifted his right hand and pointed in the direction of the crimson spear. In the direction he pointed, his fierce ultimate divine power and bloodline power of 7-star ancient tribe exploded without holding back. The bolt of strength had already surpassed an ordinary emperor god by too much. Jian Wushuang was performing the seventh finger of ancient god, Vault of Heaven's finger. A space-time whirlpool that covered the expanse of 100,000 miles appeared from nowhere. The space-time whirlpool strangled everything in the universe, and in the whirlpool, a huge ancient finger extended. The only difference was that the ancient finger was no longer in a dark golden, but a black jade luster. Ancient god was part of the bloodline under ancient tribe. If the unique skills that ancient gods possessed were to be performed by an ancient tribe, it would be even more powerful. Hong! There was a loud noise and space-time shook. The entire universe was trembling from the terrifying hit. How is it possible? Emperor God Fan Yun suddenly stared as he could feel a terrifying power approaching him. The power collided with his spear, and the strongest killer move that he had performed with all his strength had the lower hand. Soon his strongest move collapsed. As for the black jade finger that extended, part of its power hit his body. The impact shook his body, and he retreated continuously. The strongest move that he had performed with his all was defeated by Jian Wushuang. It's impossible. Besides a peak emperor god, there shouldn't be anyone else who could match me evenly. Has Jian Wushuang already reached the level of peak emperor god? Emperor God Fan Yuan looked shocked. At that very moment, Jian Wushuang wiped off the divine power storm before him, and his cold eyes met Emperor God Fan Yuan's. Emperor God Fan Yuan, you are really powerful. You are slightly stronger than Emperor God Shuegu, who forced me into a desperate situation. However, it's a pity that no matter if it is Emperor God Shuegu or you, neither of you pose any threat to me. Emperor God Shuegu? Did you fight with Emperor God Shuegu? What happened to him? Emperor God Shuegu asked. Emperor God Shuegu died long ago. Emperor God Jin Ming, and you will head down to keep him company now. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but his smile was extremely cold. He didn't want to waste any more time on the two emperor gods. Let's get this done quickly. There was a flash of murderous intention in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Hong! A terrifying divine power exploded with a tinge of shocking space-time power. Secret skill of ancient god moon picking skill. Chapter 1827. One Realm Pearl Buzz. With Jian Wushuang using his powerful divine power, the moon picking skill, the ancient god clan's strongest secret skill, was completely unleashed. This secret skill was related to space-time. Hence, the stronger one's comprehension of the space-time doctrine was, the greater its power. During the 6,000 years' time that Jian Wushuang traveled in the ancient battlefield, the area that he had made the greatest improvement in was the space-time doctrine. By unleashing this secret skill, the void shook fiercely. After that rumble, the void collapsed into pieces like paper. Emperor God Fan Yuan and Emperor God Jin Ming still stood in the void. However, at that moment, both of them realized that the space-time around them had undergone some slight changes. After that, they noticed that the whole universe, the whole vault of heaven, and the whole space-time had started to exert pressure on them crazily. The pressure was too powerful. It was powerful to the extent that the bodies of these two emperor gods were unable to move at all. I am unable to move? Emperor God Jin Ming opened his eyes wide. All of a sudden, Jian Wushuang, who was in the void in front of him, took a step out. This step covered a distance of hundreds of thousands of miles instantly, and he appeared in front of Emperor God Jin Ming. After that, Jian Wushuang swung his sword. An ice-cold, merciless sword shadow expanded in the eyes of Emperor God Jin Ming continuously. Emperor God Jin Ming's throat became dry, and he wanted to resist with all his might at that moment. However, it was extremely difficult for him to move while under the pressure of the space-time. As such, he was totally unable to keep up with the speed of the sword light. Swish! The sword light flew past and Emperor God Jin Ming's head was sent flying immediately. After that, the Blood Mountain sword shook madly. It seemed to be jumping for joy, and it also seemed to be extremely excited. Oh, it's about to make a breakthrough? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He was the Blood Mountain sword's master, and he naturally understood the feelings of the Blood Mountain sword the most. The Blood Mountain sword had always been an embryo sword, and it could raise its power with endless massacre and training. Then, The reason why the Blood Mountain Sword was so delighted and excited was that it had already reached the edge of a breakthrough after killing Emperor God Jin Ming. With just another step, it would achieve the level of a Chaos Divine Treasure. At this stage, it yearned to drink blood again. Haha, little thing, don't worry. I will let you kill until you are satisfied. Jian Wushuang laughed heartily. After putting Emperor God Jin Ming's treasures away into his Qian Kuan ring, he looked in the direction Emperor God Fan Yuan, and murderous intent rose from him abruptly. Not good. Emperor God Fan Yuan's expression changed greatly. No matter how frightened or stupid he was, he understood that Jian Wushuang already possessed the fighting capabilities of a peak Emperor God, and he killed Emperor God Jin Ming easily moments ago. As such, Jian Wushuang also had the ability to kill him. Run! Emperor God Fan Yuan did not hesitate in the slightest. He had already struggled free of the moon-picking skill's binding, and he had also unleashed his speed completely. You wish to escape? Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. When he unleashed the secret skill of Dragon Blood, his speed skyrocketed at once. He was already a Stage 3 Ultimate Real God, and he possessed a total of 100 Ultimate Real God water droplets. Therefore, the amount of divine power that he had was a lot more than that of the Sir Gods and Emperor Gods. With such a vast amount of divine power, he was naturally not worried about running out of it. Jian Wushuang, your target is only Emperor God Jin Ming. Now that he has been killed by you, why is there a need for you to be so aggressive? Emperor God Fan Yuan shouted loudly as he escaped. Haha, now you are scared. However, Emperor God Fan Yuan, this wasn't what you said at the start. Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. However, his eyes were filled with an infinite amount of murderous intent. If you were someone who was hired by Emperor God Jin Ming to help him due to him paying you a huge price, I would have just let you off. However, you are an extremely good friend of Emperor God Jin Ming, and since I have killed your good friend in front of you, how can you not hate me? Not hate the lineage of Star? Rather than letting you find an opportunity to take revenge in the future, it would be better for me to get rid of you now. Jian Wushuang's mind was as clear as a bright mirror. The lineage of Star was in danger, and it was naturally good to not provoke experts if there was no need to. For example, back then, Jian Wushuang had spared Sir God Songyu. However, Jian Wushuang had spared him as he knew that Sir God Songyu and the Purple Sky Palace behind him would not hate him after the matter. Instead, they would remember this favor of his. However, it was completely different for Emperor God Fan Yuan. Moreover, there was another factor, and it was his Blood Mountain Sword yearning for blood. In particular, the blood of an expert. Under such circumstances, Jian Wushuang had no reason to let Emperor God Fan Yuan off. Damn it. Who do you think you are? So what if your abilities are stronger than mine? Do you think that you can kill me? Emperor God Fan Yuan laughed disdainfully. He admitted that Jian Wushuang's abilities were stronger than his. However, Jian Wushuang's abilities would definitely not be so much more powerful than his own. Moreover, he was still an Emperor God expert who was near the peak after all, and his ability to stay alive was extremely shocking. Even among the peak Emperor Gods, there were probably very few of them who could kill him to the extent that they could be counted with fingers. As for Jian Wushuang, he absolutely did not believe that Jian Wushuang possessed the ability to do so. Swoosh! Emperor God Fan Yuan also unleashed a secret skill to escape, and his speed was not slower than Jian Wushuang's in the slightest. Instead, it was slightly faster. Isn't his speed a bit too fast? Jian Wushuang revealed a surprised expression. Even though he had unleashed the secret skill of Dragon Blood with his full power, he was still unable to catch up with Emperor God Fan Yuan. I said before that you would not be able to kill me. Emperor God Fan Yuan's voice, which was filled with ridicule, could be heard. Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised the corners of his mouth. After that, with a flip of his palm, a purple pearl which emitted a peculiar aura appeared in his hands. What is that? Emperor God Fan Yuan had always been careful toward Jian Wushuang. When he saw the purple pearl that Jian Wushuang had taken out, he realized and felt immediately that it was not good. As for Jian Wushuang, he laughed apathetically. Go! Buzzed out a vast amount of purple energy burst forth from the purple pearl. This purple energy then covered a range of millions of miles of void around the surrounding almost instantly. Similarly, Emperor God Fan Yuan, who had been escaping madly, was also covered by the purple energy. This is a formation. Emperor God Fan Yuan's expression changed greatly. He could already tell that the millions of miles of distance that the purple energy had already formed a kind of giant formation, and this formation had already covered him as well. If he wanted to escape, he would need to destroy the formation completely. However, would it be so easy to destroy this formation? I have said before that you would not be able to escape. Jian Wushuang laughed coldly, and he approached Emperor God Fan Yuan hastily. While shrouded by the formation, Emperor God Fan Yuan was totally unable to escape, and he could only force himself to fight a close-quarters battle with Jian Wushuang head-on. However, the close-quarters battle only lasted for a short time. No! Emperor God Fan Yuan gave a shrill roar, and his consciousness started to dissipate slowly. Jian Wushuang stood in his position calmly. With a wave of his hands, the purple energy, which covered a distance of millions of miles, was gathered up at once and returned to the purple pearl. This one realm pearl is really useful. Jian Wushuang laughed. Chapter 1828. Impressive bad name. One realm pearl was a treasure that he had gotten from a unique place during the 6,000 years when Jian Wushuang had been wandering in the ancient battlefield. Although it was a chaotic divine treasure, it was sometimes more useful than a chaotic divine treasure. One realm pearl could form a realm on its own. It only required willpower to activate it, and instantly formed a complete space, just like a formation. In short, it would become formation in one's will. For instance, Emperor God Fan Yuan was running away to a far-off place, but the moment Jian Wushuang activated one realm pearl, it instantly became a complete space and blocked Emperor God Fan Yuan's way. It didn't give him any chance to escape. In the 6,000 years, Jian Wushuang searched through many special places on the ancient battlefield and received many opportunities and treasures. One realm pearl was merely one of them, and it wasn't even the best treasure. After Jian Wushuang killed Emperor Fan Yuan, he knew that Blood Mountain Sword broke through and had the power of a chaotic divine treasure. Jian Wushuang was thrilled. The next target, near Holy Kingdom of White Fog, Jian Wushuang drove his ancient spaceship to the destination of his next target. But he didn't know that there was a hubbub in Sanctuary Alliance because of him. Previously, although Jian Wushuang had started a massacre and killed a total of 7 Sir Gods, they were Sir Gods after all. The power that Jian Wushuang had displayed wasn't as ridiculous. But then, Emperor God Fan Yuan and Emperor God Jin Ming, the 2 experts of Emperor God level, had been killed by Jian Wushuang. Plus, the 2 Emperor Gods weren't killed separately by Jian Wushuang, but they were together, and they had teamed up. In the end, they were still killed by Jian Wushuang brutally. One should know, they were Emperor Gods. In Eternal Chaotic World, there was only a total of over 80 Emperor Gods. Every one of them was Heaven and Earth Supremes. They were a superb existence, but Jian Wushuang had killed 2 at once. What was going on? This is insane. He can even kill Emperor God experts. Jian Wushuang is too scary. 6,000 years ago, he was barely evenly matched with Emperor God Tian Shao. After 6,000 years, his power has improved to such a level? Emperor God Fan Yuan and Emperor God Jin Ming teamed up, but couldn't flee from Jian Wushuang's hands. Jian Wushuang's power should have reached the level of peak Emperor God, if not mistaken. A real god could be compared favorably with a peak Emperor God? Emperor Bai wasn't even that scary back then. Monster. He's a monster. Jian Wushuang and the other 2 Hall Masters from Lineage of Star obviously wanted to exterminate everyone who harbored grudges against Lineage of Star. Plus, Jian Wushuang is so strong that he could even kill Emperor God directly. Those that they are in big trouble. In Sanctuary Alliance, people were in intense discussion. Everyone made a new evaluation regarding Jian Wushuang's power, based on his battle achievements. Peak Emperor God. His fame as Sword Emperor instantly rose to a brand new level. This fame was an impressively bad name. Colored Glaze Sanctuary, Soaring Heaven Land. In an extremely hidden secret room, a purple-robed elderly waited anxiously. Soon, a green-robed young man walked in. Haha, Sir God Xianbing. Long time no see. Looking as graceful as ever. The man in the Taoist robe chuckled and said, Sir God Qing Fu, you must be joking. How do I still look graceful? The purple-robed elderly sighed. Sir God Qing Fu raised his eyebrows. He naturally knew Sir God Xianbing's situation, and he laughed and said, Sir God Xianbing, you are quite courageous. A sword emperor from lineage of Star is hunting experts who share great resentment with lineage of Star. At such a crucial moment, you did not look for a place to hide, but came to Colored Glaze Sanctuary instead. Aren't you afraid that Sword Emperor will come and look for you? I am. Of course I am afraid, Sir God Xianbing replied. Because I'm afraid, that's why I seized the time to come and looked for you, Sir God Qing Fu. When Jian Wushuang was still at Sir God Jin Ming's. As for the purpose of my visit, I hope that Soaring Heaven King Palace can take me in. From today, I will follow Soaring Heaven King Palace's lead. Oh! Sir God Qing Fu looked surprised. He had known of Sir God Xianbing's intention long ago, but he didn't point it out. Then, as Sir God Xianbing had said it, he replied, Sir God Xianbing, we of Soaring Heaven King Palace came forward to express our intention to be on friendly terms with you long ago. But then you took a different stance. This, Sir God Xianbing felt bitter. When Soaring Heaven King Palace had thrown out an olive branch back then, Jian Wushuang had yet to come to eternal chaotic world. Although he had harbored deep-seated resentment, only the Master of Star Palace from lineage of Star had had the capability to kill him. Due to some restraints, the Master of Star Palace wouldn't come after them on purpose. Plus, lineage of stars hadn't been this crazy back then. But now there had been Jian Wushuang's sudden rise in his terrifying power. And he was only a real god. Without scruples, as long as he had a reason, he could massacre wantonly. Sanctuary Alliance wouldn't stop him. The few Sir Gods and Emperor God Jin Ming were only a warning to the others. Emperor God Jin Ming and Emperor God Fan Yuan were killed. Sir God Xianbing, who did he think he was? Once Jian Wushuang found him, he would definitely be dead. Hence, he could either flee to some remote holy kingdom in eternal chaotic world, so that Jian Wushuang couldn't find him, or he could join some major forces and seek refuge. Sir God Xianbing was obviously the latter. Sir God Xianbing, I know that you have been forced into a corner by Sword Emperor from lineage of Star. Luckily, Soaring Heaven King Palace is also in an endless fight with Jian Wushuang. As you're willing to yield to us sincerely, we of Soaring Heaven King Palace will naturally keep you safe. As long as we of Soaring Heaven King Palace announce this, at least when you're in Colored Glaze Sanctuary, Jian Wushuang definitely won't dare to touch a single strand of your hair. Sir God Qing Fu smiled. Thank you, Sir God Qing Fu. Sir God Xianbing was delighted and he said, Before I came to see you, I sent a message to Sir God Qianren. If Soaring Heaven King Palace is willing to accept, he and I will join Soaring Heaven King Palace together. Haha, even better. Sir God Qing Fu beamed with joy. Ever since Jian Wushuang had fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace the last time, they had lost 4 Sir Gods, and their power had diminished drastically. They were thinking of ways to recruit more Sir Gods to join them, but now were 2 Sir Gods who had come to them instead. Plus the 2 Sir Gods, Sir God Xianbing and Sir God Qianren weren't weak. Especially Sir God Qianren. He was also a top Sir God, and he was listed on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. Jian Wushuang, you probably never expected Soaring Heaven King Palace to be benefiting from your massacre. Sir God Qing Fu was laughing maliciously from the bottom of his heart. 1. Chapter 1829 Deluge Fortress. Not long after Jian Wushuang killed Emperor God Jin Ming and Emperor God Fan Yuan, Sir God Xianbing and Sir God Qianren announced to the world that they had joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace. In no time, the Sanctuary Alliance was in an uproar again. Jian Wushuang also caught wind of the information immediately. They have actually gone and sought refuge with the Soaring Heaven King Palace? Jian Wushuang frowned. Sir God Xianbing and Sir God Qianren were the experts in his name list. Before Jian Wushuang could find them, they had quickly found someone to back them up. In actual fact, it was not just those 2 Sir Gods. There were also the remaining experts in the name list, as well as some experts who were not in the name list, but who had a huge grudge with the lineage of Star. After they became aware of Jian Wushuang's crazy massacre, they knew that they were in danger, and they naturally thought of ways to protect themselves. Palace Master, you do not need to go to the Holy Kingdom of White Fog anymore. The Vientiane Tower has just spread news that the Sir God who stayed near the Holy Kingdom of White Fog has already left, Hall Master Yuan messaged. Left? Did the Vientiane Tower find out where he has gone? Jian Wushuang asked. They have found out about it. This Sir God has gone to the Abysmal Sanctuary, and it's not just him. Quite a number of the Sir Gods in the name list that I have given you have also gone there, Hall Master Yuan said. The Abysmal Sanctuary? Jian Wushuang was surprised. The Abysmal Sanctuary was one of the 10 sanctuaries, and it was very close to the lineage of Star. At this stage, why had those experts gone to the Abysmal Sanctuary? Could it be that they want to come together and fight the lineage of Star head-on? Jian Wushuang asked in a cold voice. That looks to be what is going on. Moreover, the Vientiane Tower has also found out that these people have gone to the Deluge Fortress, Hall Master Yuan said. The Deluge Fortress? Fortress Master Hong Tian? Jian Wushuang's expression turned grave. The Abysmal Sanctuary was within the 10 sanctuaries, and there were many peak powerhouses, as well as experts who traveled alone in it. As for the Deluge Fortress, it was neither a powerhouse nor a sect. Instead, it was a place where an expert who traveled alone lived. However, the Deluge Fortress had a huge reputation in the Abysmal Sanctuary, as well as the whole eternal chaotic world. Fortress Master Hong Tian, the founder of the Deluge Fortress, was ranked 36th on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he was a genuine Emperor God who stood at the top. It should be known that the Star Palace Master was ranked 31st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Hence, Fortress Master Hong Tian was extremely close to the Star Palace Master. Could it be that Fortress Master Hong Tian has a grudge against the lineage of Star as well? Jian Wushuang questioned. That's right. Hall Master Yuan nodded his head earnestly. However, Fortress Master Hong Tian does not have a grudge against the lineage of Star. Instead, he has a grudge against the Star Palace Master. I have heard that Fortress Master Hong Tian has fought a close-quarter battle with the Star Palace Master twice, and every close-quarter battle was extremely intense. However, as their abilities are not far away from each other, there has never been an outcome. If this is the case, why did you not place Fortress Master Hong Tian on the name list? Jian Wushuang asked with a frown. Palace Master, Fortress Master Hong Tian is a peak Emperor God. Even with the Star Palace Master alive, it is still impossible to kill him. Hence, Hall Master Yuan had not finished talking yet. However, Jian Wushuang had already understood. The 16 experts on the name list that Hall Master Yuan had given him were all experts who traveled alone. Moreover, they were experts who Jian Wushuang could kill. However, experts which would involve those big powerhouses, as well as peak Emperor gods like Fortress Master Hong Tian, were not included on the name list. After all, be it the experts of those big powerhouses or peak Emperor gods, none of them could be killed easily. Looking at it now, Fortress Master Hong Tian probably wants to gather those experts who have a grudge against the lineage of Star. After that, they will team up and go against our lineage of Star, Hall Master Yuan said. Go against us? Them alone? Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with coldness. For the remaining experts on the name list, apart from a small number of them joining some big powerhouses, the rest of them had gone to the Deluge Fortress. With that, Jian Wushuang had no way to continue his massacre, and he returned to the lineage of Star at once. Abysmal Sanctuary, Deluge Fortress. In a vast palace, there were more than 10 thrones standing tall and upright. At the same time, there was a total of 12 people. Among the 12 people, a good number of them were people on Jian Wushuang's name list. As for the remaining people, although they were not on the name list, they had a grudge against the lineage of Star as well. For example, on a throne, there was a purple-robed old man who was 3 meters tall. Jiogong, long time no see. You have actually made a breakthrough already. Congratulations. A Sir God beside him laughed. Real God Jiugong. No, now you should be called Sir God Jiugong. The Jiugong Holy Kingdom, under you, is not too far away from the 10 sanctuaries. Even so, during Jian Wushuang's massacre, he actually did not look for you. Your luck is really not too bad. Some other people said. Jiugong's expression changed slightly and he said, Jian Wushuang's targets are obviously almighties. As for real gods who have grudges against the lineage of Star, they are massacred by the 2 other Sir Gods of the lineage of Star wantonly. Although I have already made a breakthrough, this news remained confidential, and no one knew about it. With this, I was able to remain alive. As Sir God Jiugong spoke about that, he was really glad. He was glad that the news of his breakthrough was not made public. If not, the name list that Jian Wushuang had would probably have had his name on it as well. With the massacre, he would probably be dead already. That Jian Wushuang, a junior who has trained for merely tens of thousands of years, actually forced us to such a stage. Not only is he just a junior, he is also a real god. A real god-level inverse cultivator. Even as a real god, he is already so frightening. If he were to make a breakthrough and become an almighty in the future, he would definitely have the fighting capabilities of a great emperor. According to Jian Wushuang's personality, since he has already taken action, he will definitely want to kill all of us. If we are unable to take action in time to kill him, and he makes a breakthrough to Almighty in the future, then we can only escape to the remote regions in the eternal chaotic world and hide ourselves for life. This Jian Wushuang must absolutely be killed. In the palace, a clamorous voice. Just then, buzz. A figure came into shape slowly on the throne at the highest point of the palace. It was a hale, bald-headed old man. His deep eyes then looked around the area. Greetings to Fortress Master Hong Tian. When the 12 almighties below saw the person who had come, all of them stood up and greeted him. Please take a seat. Fortress Master Hong Tian waved his hands, and the almighty sat down again. Fortress Master Hong Tian said loudly, all of you should know my motive for gathering you here this time around. The lineage of Star has been threatening us, and it obviously wants to kill all those people who have once made enemies with them. To date, quite a number of Sir Gods as well as 2 Emperor Gods have already died in Jian Wushuang's hands. Moreover, the lineage of Star's Hall Master Gu Xen and Hall Master Shi Yin have also taken action personally to kill quite a number of real gods. At this stage, if all of us were to not team up, we would be killed by the lineage of Star one by one. By then, even I would be worried about my life. Chapter 1830 Self-Defense. Fortress Master Hong Tian made the 12 almighties stunned. If they didn't work together, the 12 of them would definitely be in a life-threatening situation. However, Fortress Master Hong Tian wouldn't be, right? Fortress Master Hong Tian was a true peak Emperor God. He had once fought with the Master of Star Palace twice, and he survived both matches. No matter how great lineage of Star's tactics were, it would be impossible that they could kill an expert at the level of peak Emperor God. Why? Do you think I am joking? Fortress Master Hong Tian saw everyone's expressions, and he smirked coldly. Everyone might not know. The reason I could retreat when I fought with the Master of Star Palace was that he never used secret skill of Star Palace. After all, his strongest trump card is secret skill of Star Palace. After he performs it, he will need a long time until he perform it a second time. If he isn't sure that he can kill me, he won't be willing to use his trump card. But then, Jian Wushuang has risen, and his strength isn't much weaker than the Master of Star Palaces. He has definitely cultivated secret skill of Star Palace too. Once they join forces and play secret skill of Star Palace, I might not stand a chance to flee either. The 12 almighties then understood. The scariest part about Lineage of Star was the secret skill of Star Palace. The secret skill was eagerly coveted by many experts in Eternal Chaotic World. Fortress Master Hong Tian, according to what you said, even if we team up, we won't be evenly matched with Lineage of Star? A Sir God couldn't help but ask. That's true. Fortress Master nodded faintly. So, you were talking about killing Jian Wushuang and destroying Lineage of Star. Forget about that. With us alone it is impossible. However, if we were to team up, Although we couldn't be evenly matched with lineage of star, we could defend ourselves well enough. Self-defense. So many of us team up, including you, but we can only defend ourselves. The 12 Almighties were unhappy about it. They harbored deep-seated hatred against lineage of star, and they were forced to team up. If they teamed up, they not only wanted to defend themselves, they wanted to bring damage to lineage of star. It's great enough that we could defend ourselves. Plus, we can wait for a chance to come by. Fortress Master Hong Tian smiled. Just as you have mentioned, Jian Wushuang has high potential, and he carries the fighting power of a peak emperor god at the level of real god. Once he breaks through and becomes an almighty, how much greater can he be? Sanctuary Alliance isn't that united. There are many who wouldn't want to see Jian Wushuang grow stronger. Fortress Master Hong Tian. What you are trying to say is that someone will take care of Jian Wushuang. A black-robed lady creased her eyebrows and asked. Not only Jian Wushuang, but also lineage of star. Over all these years, lineage of star has grown too quickly and possessed too many resources. Like the saying, a tall tree attracts the wind. There are many who are eyeing secret skill of Star Palace and want to kill Jian Wushuang. They are only waiting for an opportunity to do so. What we are going to do is to defend ourselves together. In no time, lineage of star's danger will reveal itself. By then we can beat a drowning dog. Why not? Fortress Master Hong Tian laughed. Hearing what he had said, everyone exchanged a look and nodded simultaneously. They thought what Fortress Master Hong Tian had said made sense. Fortress Master Hong Tian, the black-robed lady continued to ask. Even if we wanted to defend ourselves, lineage of star and Jian Wushuang are willing to let us be. As for this, Fortress Master Hong Tian smiled. In this world power rules. As long as we are powerful enough, even if Jian Wushuang doesn't want to stop, he has to. I have already sent a message to Lineage of Star that we are going to meet them on Thunderbolt Island 1 month later. By then we will just go together. Everyone's eyes glowed. They already understood Fortress Master Hong Tian's intention. Fortress Master Hong Tian didn't intend to fight with Lineage of Star. He merely wanted to showcase his team and trump cards to serve as a deterrent force to Lineage of Star, so that they wouldn't act hastily. Hence, he had invited them to go together. On that day itself, the message that Fortress Master Hong Tian sent was heard in Jian Wushuang's ears. Fortress Master Hong Tian has asked for me to meet him on Thunderbolt Island? What is he thinking about? Jian Wushuang smiled, but he made a decision very quickly. No matter what he is thinking about, I shall go. Jian Wushuang wasn't worried, and he immediately went to Thunderbolt Island alone. 1 month later, in a lofty hall on Thunderbolt Island, there were countless experts gathered. The experts were from Sanctuary Alliance. Most of them were real gods, and there were some almighties who gathered there. In the middle of the hall, there was a total of 13 figures towering there. The 13 auras spread, and any single one could strike fear into the surrounding real gods. The 13 people were all almighties. Among the 13 almighties, there were 7 ordinary Sir Gods, 4 top Sir Gods, and the remaining 2 were Fortress Master Hong Tian and Emperor God Bing. Can such a strong team? There are not only Sir Gods, there are even 2 Emperor Gods and the 2 Emperor Gods. Sir God Bing Ken is listed in the 54th place on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. He is slightly higher compared to Emperor God Tian Shao from Soaring Heaven King Palace. As for Fortress Master Hong Tian, it's needless to say, he is a peak Emperor God. Previously, Sword Emperor from Lineage of Star killed many Sir Gods, including 2 Sir Gods. But he killed them one by one. However, fighting against such a strong team formation, I reckon he won't act hastily. Fortress Master Hong Tian united the experts who harbored grudges against Lineage of Star and wanted to match evenly with them. I wonder if the 2 strong teams will fight a fierce battle. Even if they fight, it won't be within Thunderbolt Island. In the hall, all the experts from Sanctuary Alliance were talking among themselves. Just then the crowd suddenly moved to 2 sides. Then, a young man carrying a sword slowly walked to the middle of the hall. There was no one behind him, just him alone. He didn't have a team of 13 almighties like Fortress Master Hong Tian, but he alone could make the entire hall quiet down. In the hall, The experts from Sanctuary Alliance fixed their gazes upon him. Most of the people revealed reverence and adoration in their eyes. When he reached the middle of the hall, in front of the 13 Almighties, there was suddenly a hubbub in the hall. It's Jian Wushuang. He came alone. Alone. He fights alone with a total of 13 Almighties, including Fortress Master Hong Tian. Such courage. Thanks. Chapter 1831. Jian Wushuang's reply. Upon seeing Jian Wushuang, who had appeared before them, the expressions of Fortress Master Hong Tian and the 12 Almighties behind him changed slightly. The Star Palace Master is becoming more and more arrogant. I sent an invitation to him personally, and in the end, he did not come. Fortress Master Hong Tian said in a deep voice. Palace Master is busy with his own matters, and he does not have the time to care about such a small matter. Jian Wushuang said nonchalantly. Busy with his own matters? Isn't his traveling in the ancient mystery land? That old bastard. I really hope that he will die in the ancient mystery land one day. Fortress Master Hong Tian snorted coldly, and he did not care about Jian Wushuang, who was present in the slightest bit. Upon hearing Fortress Master Hong Tian's words, a light that was hard to notice flashed past Jian Wushuang's eyes. The Fortress Master Hong Tian was right. The Star Palace Master had indeed died in the ancient mystery land. Fortress Master Hong Tian, let's cut the crap. Why not tell me your motive this time around bluntly? Jian Wushuang crossed his arms. My motive is simple. Behind me, there are 12 Almighties. All of them are now my friends, and they are all currently guests in my deluge fortress. I hope that the lineage of Star will not make things difficult for them. If they do. Fortress Master Hong Tian had only managed to speak until this point. Then what? Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. Fortress Master Hong Tian, are you trying to threaten the lineage of Star? Or do you plan to start a war with the lineage of Star head-on? Fortress Master Hong Tian was stunned, and after muttering to himself for a long time, he spoke again. Jian Wushuang, for you to be able to reach your current stage today, you are definitely not an idiot. You're right. Your lineage of Star is powerful. However, with many Almighties teaming up now, our lineup is probably more powerful than your lineage of Star. If a great battle were to really break out on both sides, the end result would definitely be mutual destruction, with both sides suffering losses. Is there really a need for this? Why don't both our sides take a step back? From today on, all these good friends of mine, including me, will make a detour right away if we come across experts of the lineage of Star. As for you, you must not make trouble for us again. Deal? Take a step back. What a great idea. Jian Wushuang laughed. In other words, you agree to this? Fortress Master Hong Tian looked over. Agree? What a joke. Why must my lineage of Star agree to all of you? Do you think that all of you have the right to get my lineage of Star to retreat? Jian Wushuang laughed with ridicule. Upon hearing that, the 12 Almighties behind Fortress Master Hong Tian were all enraged. Jian Wushuang, don't be too much. That's right. Even if we were to have a great battle, do you think that we would be afraid of you? At most, there will be mutual destruction. Even if we were to die, your lineage of Star would definitely suffer heavy losses like never before. Many shouting voices could be heard in the hall repeatedly. The fury and god power that these shouting voices contained also caused many of the experts of the Sanctuary Alliance to shiver in fear. Jian Wushuang, Fortress Master Hong Tian's voice turned cold. To your lineage of Star, this matter is considered huge. I think you had better have a good discussion with the Star Palace Master, as well as the other hall masters of the lineage of Star first, before making a decision. Discuss with them? There's no need for that. Jian Wushuang shook his head, and his eyes were extremely determined, like never before. Since I have come alone, my decision can fully represent the lineage of Star, and I can give you my answer now. You wish for the lineage of Star to retreat, for us to be non-aggressive toward one another, and for us to stop what we are doing now. Impossible. Since my lineage of Star has already made up our mind to take action, we will continue our massacre. Aren't all of you gathered together and staying in the Deluge Fortress now? Since that's the case, within 10 years, my lineage of Star will fight our way into the Deluge Fortress and kill the 13 of you, which is inclusive of you, Fortress Master Hong Tian. None of you will be able to escape. Jian Wuxiang was filled with murderous intent, and he had already made up his mind a long time ago. He could tell that Fortress Master Hong Tian had invited him there on that very day simply to show him the power of their lineup, in order to frighten him, as well as the lineage of Star, so that the lineage of Star would stop their massacre. In addition, their lineup was very powerful. 13 Almighties, which was inclusive of 2 Emperor gods. Moreover, there was Fortress Master Hong Tian, a peak Emperor God expert would be present. Even if it were a big powerhouse like the Soaring Heaven King Palace, they would not dare to provoke him as well. However, as their lineup was very powerful, it made Jian Wuxiang want to kill them even more. It should be known that the lineage of Star was about to face an unprecedented danger. The moment the danger descended upon them completely, a great number of experts from the powerhouses would probably throw themselves at them, including the 13 Almighties, which was inclusive of Fortress Master Hong Tian, who already had a huge grudge against the lineage of Star to begin with. Moreover, at that time, these 13 Almighties would definitely bring about great dangers to the lineage of Star. Hence, before the danger descended, these 13 people had to die, no matter what. Within the hall, countless experts of the Sanctuary Alliance were gathered together. The 13 people, which was inclusive of Fortress Master Hong Tian, continued standing at their positions, and Jian Wuxiang's answer was still resounding in their ears. Within 10 years, the lineage of Star would fight their way to the Deluge Fortress and kill the 13 of them? How arrogant! How impudent! Jian Wuxiang, you are too arrogant. The Almighties were all extremely furious, and some people even roared with fury repeatedly. If not for them being in the Thunderbolt Island, and the fact that fighting was forbidden, some of them would have taken action to kill Jian Wuxiang on the spot, as they could no longer take it. After all, they were 13 Almighties, which was inclusive of Fortress Master Hong Tian as well. With such a powerful lineup, and that they were willing to take a step back, Jian Wuxiang still did not agree to their conditions in the end. Moreover, Jian Wuxiang had also threatened to fight his way into the Deluge Fortress. This was him not caring about the 13 of them at all. Jian Wuxiang, do you know what you have just said? Fortress Master Hong Tian's expression turned grave, and he stared at Jian Wuxiang. Of course I do, and I will repeat it for all of you again. The 13 of you had better sit back and prepare yourselves. Within 10 years, my lineage of Star will fight our way into the Deluge Fortress and get our hands on your necks. Jian Wuxiang's voice was ice cold. Good, very good. Then I shall await respectfully in the Deluge Fortress for the arrival of the lineage of Star. Fortress Master Hong Tian's voice was extremely cold, and his eyes were also burning with flames with fury. Jian Wuxiang curled his lips, and he was too lazy to care about their response. As such, he turned his body and left. Let's leave. Fortress Master Hong Tian waved his hands, and he left with his 12 Almighties. After they left, the hall burst into an uproar. How daring he is! This Jian Wuxiang is really very daring. Fight their way into the Deluge Fortress? Where did his courage come from? Could it be that the lineage of Star has planned to come out in full force? Even if that's the case, they would still be unable to do anything against a battle array of 13 Almighties. In particular, a super existence like the Fortress Master Hong Tian is present as well. Unless the Star Palace Master and Jian Wuxiang unleash the secret skill of Star Palace at all costs. However, the Star Palace Master seems to be under some restrictions of the Sanctuary Alliance. Hence, won't he be unable to unleash the secret skill of Star Palace at will and go on a killing spree? Chapter 1832. Emperor God Lu Guang lineage of Star would charge to Deluge Fortress within 10 years. The news spread like wildfire. Eternal Chaotic World was instantly bubbling over with enthusiasm. After Jian Wuxiang left Thunderbolt Island, his face was cold. At first, he thought the earlier massacre had already killed many experts who harbored grudges against lineage of Star, but he had never expected that there would be so many left. A total of 13 Almighties combined was not a weak team formation, But Jian Wushuang had to kill all of them. Palace Master. Hall Master Yuan sent a message. Hall Master Yuan, you have received the news, right? Jian Wushuang assumed. Yes, I have. Hall Master Yuan replied. Palace Master made the right decision. If it was during normal times, it'd be okay for Lineage of Star to take a step back when Fortress Master Hong Tian and the others united and were willing to take a step back. But now, Lineage of Star is caught between life and death. The abyss is right behind us, and we can't even take a step back. Fortress Master Hong Tian and the rest have to be exterminated before the danger explodes. Otherwise, they will become a sharp blade that is pointed at the heart of Lineage of Star. It seems like you agree with my course of action, Jian Wushuang smiled. Of course I do. It's just that they are a group of 13 almighties. It won't be easy to kill all of them. Hall Master Yuan sighed. Don't worry. As I said, I will head to Deluge Fortress within 10 years. I naturally am confident in killing them, Jian Wushuang said. Hall Master Yuan nodded too. Yeah, Palace Master. Do you want Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nie Yin to come over and help you? It's okay. Let them continue to chase after real gods who hold grudges against Lineage of Star. I'll take care of things here, Jian Wushuang said. I understand. Hall Master Yuan didn't ask further. An ancient spaceship continued to travel forward at a high speed in the dark void. Half a year later, he arrived at a piece of floating land. The land wasn't huge in size, but there were mountains and rivers. It was a painting-like scenery. Jian Wushuang had just landed on the land when there were immediately two flowing lights that flew over. Who is this? The two flowing lights were two silver-armored soldiers. They were looking at Jian Wushuang with their guards up. Although they were only soldiers, their auras were already at the level of real god. Please notify your betters that Sword Emperor from Lineage of Star has come to visit. Jian Wushuang smiled as he let out his divine might. Feeling Jian Wushuang's divine might, the two soldiers immediately realized that the visitor was an almighty. They didn't dare to delay, and immediately reported. In the middle of the land, there was an ancient palace. In the palace, there was a golden-robed lady that sat on a cattail hassock. The golden-robed lady had a lightning mark in between her eyebrows. Suddenly, a maidservant came in and bowed politely. The golden-robed lady fluttered her eyelids and opened her eyes. What is it? The golden-robed lattice voice was cold. Master, there's a visitor. He said that he is Sword Emperor from Lineage of Star. He said that he has come to visit you, the maidservant said politely. Sword Emperor from Lineage of Star? The golden-robed lady looked shocked. I do not have anything to do with Lineage of Star. Not too long ago, Jian Wushuang said that he wanted to barge into Deluge Fortress in 10 years' time. Why did he come to look for me now? Although the golden-robed lady was confused, she waved and said, Let him in. Yes, the maidservant left. Very soon, Jian Wushuang came to the palace under the lead of the maidservant. Jian Wushuang greets Emperor God Lu Guang. Jian Wushuang was polite, but he wasn't fearful. Emperor God Lu Guang was a peak expert in the 27th place on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list. In terms of power, she was one notch stronger than the Master of Star Palace. She was definitely considered a terrifying existence. However, Jian Wushuang also possessed fighting power of a peak Emperor God. Hence, they were not far apart in power. They naturally could speak on even ground. I wonder why the famous Sword Emperor has come to my place. Emperor God Lu Guang stared at Jian Wushuang with her pair of eyes that were giving out faint golden light. It was as though she was trying to see through Jian Wushuang, but she couldn't see anything. I think Emperor God Lu Guang also knew that Lineage of Star would barge into Deluge Emperor within 10 years, right? Jian Wushuang looked at Emperor God Lu Guang. Yes, Emperor God Lu Guang nodded. She wasn't cultivating in seclusion, so she pretty much knew what had happened within Eternal Chaotic World, especially about that incident. It had been a great scene, and it would be difficult for Emperor God Lu Guang to not know about it. If so, I will not beat around the bush. Deluge Fortress has a total of 13 almighties. To kill all 13 almighties is easier said than done. So, I'd like to ask Emperor God Lu Guang for help. Jian Wushuang said straightforwardly. You want me to help you? Emperor God Lu Guang looked cold. Jian Wushuang, No matter if it is you or lineage of star behind you, we share no relations. Plus, Fortress Master Hong Tian and the others have never offended me before. Under such circumstances, why would I want to help you? Because of this, Jian Wushuang flipped his hand, and there was a strange-looking jade sword. Emperor God Lu Guang, who looked originally cold, her eyes dilated in shock when she saw the jade sword. There was also a glimpse of light in her eyes, but she instantly concealed it. Jian Wushuang, where did you get this jade sword? Emperor God Lu Guang looked at him. Regardless of where I got this from, this jade sword is in my hands, and Emperor God Lu Guang has been wanting to get this jade sword. Jian Wushuang smiled. The jade sword had been given to Jian Wushuang many years ago, when he took He Xiu in as his disciple, and He Xiu gave it to him, along with the 9 Taiqing ancient panaceas. The jade sword and Taiqing ancient panaceas were from Sir God Dan Hong's cave dwelling, who had passed away long ago. Back then, Jian Wushuang didn't know what the purpose of the jade sword was. But when he returned to Lineage of Star and asked Hall Master Yuan, he had found out that the jade sword was a token to enter the 3rd most famous dangerous place in the 3rd layer, Blood Cloud Palace. There was a total of 10 tokens to enter Blood Cloud Palace, which were 10 jade swords. Only one with a jade sword could enter Blood Cloud Palace. It was a pity that it still required a long time until Blood Cloud Palace opened again. Hence, there wasn't any use of the jade sword in Jian Wushuang's hands. However, Jian Wushuang knew that Emperor God Lu Guang had been looking for the jade sword over the years. Emperor God Lu Guang, I heard that the last time when Blood Cloud Palace was open, your husband went in to explore with one of the jade swords. But in the end he never came out. For all these years, you have been looking for a new jade sword. You should be thinking of entering Blood Cloud Palace the next time it opens again, to look for your husband. It's a pity that you have yet to find one, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Chapter 1833. Assistance. I really do want the jade sword. Emperor God Lu Guang lifted her head and looked at Jian Wushuang. However, there is a total of 10 jade swords. Even though there are a few that are lost, there are still some remaining. Plus, it will be still a long time until the next opening of Blood Cloud Palace. In this period of time, I can totally look for it slowly on my own. With my power and my position, it will definitely not be difficult for me to find one. I don't have to CAE about the jade sword in your hand. Jian Wushuang's face changed slightly. He knew what Emperor God Lu Guang said was a fact. Although the token to enter Blood Cloud Palace was rare and precious, if Emperor God Lu Guang were to spend some time and effort to look for it slowly, she would be able to find it. It wasn't too high of a price to pay. Emperor God Lu Guang, if you help, I will owe you a favor, Jian Wushuang said. Oh! Emperor God Lu Guang was surprised. Although she was dying to get the jade sword, she wasn't in a hurry. Jian Wushuang couldn't convince her with the jade sword. But with the addition of Jian Wushuang's favor, the deal was entirely different. One should know that if Jian Wushuang could break through and become an almighty, he would possess fighting power of a great emperor. He might even reach the level of Emperor Bai. Although he would come across countless dangers and unexpected incidents during the process, there was a high hope after all. A possible great emperor to be who could be side by side with Emperor Bai. A favor from him is hard to come by. Emperor Lu Guang nodded and stood up. Jian Wushuang, I agree to make a trip to Deluge Fortress with you, but there's one thing. I will only attack once. After the fight with Deluge Fortress, regardless of if you reach your goal to kill all the Almighties or not, I will not attack again. Okay, Jian Wushuang nodded. He intended to destroy Deluge Fortress in one shot anyway. It was naturally unnecessary to attack the second time. If so, let's move now, Emperor God Lu Guang said. Jian Wushuang immediately made a move with Emperor God Lu Guang, and Emperor God Lu Guang entered the ancient spaceship that Jian Wushuang had come in. Master! Jianyi stood next to Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor, this is? Emperor God Lu Guang glanced at Jianyi. In her eyes, Jianyi was just an ordinary person. He's my servant. He takes care of my daily living. He doesn't have any power, Jian Wushuang said. Oh, Emperor God Lu Guang understood. Very quickly, the ancient spaceship departed. In the dark void outside Abysmal Sanctuary, the ancient spaceship stopped in silence. Sword Emperor, what are we doing outside Abysmal Sanctuary? Emperor God Lu Guang asked. Don't be in a hurry, let's wait, Jian Wushuang said. It seems like you have other helpers. Well, that makes sense. Deluge Fortress gathered 13 Almighties, and there are Fortress Master Hong Tina and Emperor God Bing, Qin in commanding position. To kill all of them, Lineage of Star definitely has to turn out its full force. Would the Master of Star Palace be involved this time as well? Emperor God Lu Guang said. Jian Wushuang didn't explain, but continued to wait. A few months later, a black spaceship drove over. Then a black-robed, evil-looking young man walked out of the spaceship and entered Jian Wushuang's silver spaceship. Sword Emperor, oh, Emperor God Lu Guang is here too? The black-robed young man was calm when he saw Jian Wushuang, but he revealed a reverent look when he saw Emperor God Lu Guang. Emperor God Lu Guang was a superb existence in the 27th place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. Emperor God Jiuyin? You asked him too? Emperor God Lu Guang looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, then he flipped his hand and took out a spear that gave out boundless chilliness. He passed it to the black-robed young man, Emperor God Jiuyin. Emperor God Jiuyin, this is your reward. What do you think? Jian Wushuang said. It's really a chaotic divine treasure, and the power seems strong too. There was passion burning in Emperor God Jiuying's eyes. He wasn't close to Jian Wushuang. The reason why he had rushed over was that Jian Wushuang had sent him a text and said that the reward would be a chaotic divine treasure. Chaotic divine treasure? Even an ordinary Emperor God wouldn't have one. Only an Emperor God with extremely strong power would have at most only 2 of the items. Just like Emperor God Jiuying, he only had a simple attack chaotic divine treasure. Then, he was only going to offer Jian Wushuang a helping hand to barge into Deluge Fortress, so he would be able to get a chaotic divine treasure. Emperor God Jiuyin of course wouldn't decline. Sword Emperor lives up to his name. You are quite generous. Emperor God Lu Guang glanced at Jian Wushuang. It's only a chaotic divine treasure. Now I get to invite an Emperor God experts, who was on the 49th place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list to join forces with me. It's very worthy. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Although Emperor God Jiuyin wasn't a peak Emperor God, he was very close to one. His close combat skill was extremely scary, and it would be best to use it to massacre some Sir Gods. I have something to tell the 2 of you ahead of time. Jian Wushuang looked at Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiuyin and said, There are only 3 of us who are going to barge into Deluge Fortress. What? Emperor God Jiuyin's face instantly grew grave. Emperor God Lu Guang also looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. Sword Emperor, you're joking, right? The 3 of us can fight evenly with the 13 Almighties led by Fortress Master Hong Tian? Plus, Fortress Master Hong Tian, and the others knew that you're coming after them. They will definitely make preparations ahead of time. Who knows, by then, we might be dealing with more than 13, maybe 15 or more, Emperor God Jiuyin said. With the 3 of us, if we were to fight with Fortress Master Hong Tian and the others all together, we might only have a 50% chance of winning. Emperor God Lu Guang remained cold. Sword Emperor, you paid a huge price to invite myself and Emperor God Jiuyin. You won't only do it for a 50% winning chance, right? Of course not. Jian Wushuang smiled. Then he flipped his hands. There were immediately 4 silver-armored, brawny figures that appeared next to him. This is Dao soldiers? Emperor God Lu Guang was shocked. Emperor God Lu Guang, you know them? Jian Wushuang was surprised too. Emperor God Lu Guang nodded. Once when I wandered in ancient mystery land, I met similar Dao soldiers. It is said that Dao soldiers are substantiated with ancient tribe experts' blood essence. There are a few levels, and these 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers should have the power of an ordinary Emperor God. The 4 of them together should be able to match evenly with an Emperor God. In addition of the 4 Dao soldiers, our winning chance should increase by 10%. 60%? Jian Wushuang smiled. Don't worry. When I'm here, there won't only be a 60% winning chance. Let's go. The huge silver spaceship immediately plunged in the direction of Abysmal Sanctuary at a terrifyingly fast speed. An earth-shattering war was coming. Chapter 1834. To Deluge Fortress in Abysmal Sanctuary. In the spacious palace, there were 13 almighties gathered, including Fortress Master Hong Tian. Everyone, let me tell you the good news. Emperor Godjin has already accepted my invitation, and he is already on the way here. He will arrive in Abysmal Sanctuary within 3 years. Fortress Master Hong Tian looked around. Emperor Godjin is coming too? That's great. With Emperor Godjin's help, our team formation will be even stronger. The moment the news spread, the surrounding 12 almighties were excited. Previously, Emperor God Long Yin accepted my invitation. In addition, there's Emperor God Jihua. It equals to the assistance of 2 Emperor God experts. Besides, there is a total of 8 Sir Gods who have accepted our invitation too. If all of us are added up, we of Deluge Fortress will have gathered 4 Emperor Gods, and over 20 Sir Gods by then. With such team formation, we could even wipe out Soaring Heaven King Palace. We don't have to be fearful of lineage of star. What we need to do now is wait patiently for Emperor Gods, and the Sir Gods who accepted our invitation to arrive. Fortress Master Hong Tian smiled and said, as their negotiation with Jian Wushuang had failed and Jian Wushuang had said that he would barge into Deluge Fortress within 10 years, Fortress Master Hong Tian and the others naturally had to be prepared. They had been contacting their good friends and experts, who shared a relationship with them, to offer them rewards for them to rush over for assistance. In merely a year, they had invited 2 Emperor Gods and 8 Sir Gods. Emperor God Bing Can, is there any movement in lineage of star? Fortress Master Hong Tian suddenly looked at Emperor God Bing Can. I already assigned men to keep watch of lineage of star. Besides, we also asked Vientiane Tower to watch after them as well. However, it's weird that there isn't any movement in lineage of star. Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nie Yin are back in lineage of star. There's only Jian Wushuang alone. He has no fixed whereabouts. We do not know where he is temporarily, Emperor God Bingkan said. Humph, no matter where he goes, he will definitely be here in 10 years' time. Before that, we only have to keep watch of lineage of star. After all, when he comes, he definitely will make use of lineage of star's power. Wait till the few almighties from lineage of star, or the master of Star Palace come out from lineage of star. It means that they are going to launch an attack. Fortress Master Hong Tian smirked coldly. I reckon lineage of star will definitely need to prepare themselves before launching an attack as well, one of the Sir Gods said. Of course they have to prepare, but that gives us time to prepare as well. After some time, the experts that we invited will arrive and I'd like to see what lineage of star can do to us. The almighties at the scene sneered. They assumed that Jian Wushuang would need to prepare elaborately before barging into Deluge Fortress, and they also thought that he would utilize the power of lineage of star, such as the Master of Star Palace, Hall Master Gu Xen and Hall Master Nie Yin would all join the troop. But in actual fact, the ancient silver spaceship that Jian Wushuang was driving had already arrived outside Deluge Fortress. The ancient silver spaceship stopped in the void above, as it overlooked the lofty fortress at the end. There was even a layer of faint gray film around the fortress. It was a huge formation, and its power was quite strong. When I said that I am going to barge into Deluge Fortress within 10 years in front of everyone on Thunderbolt Island, I was obviously not joking. Everyone in Deluge Fortress knew that clearly, so they definitely will have started preparing immediately. For example, they would figure out ways to invite experts over to assist them. However, inviting experts takes time too. Jian Wushuang overlooked the huge fortress at the end of his sight. He had also invited experts, but he only invited 2. These 2 people were from Abysmal Sanctuary. Hence, he had only used a year's time in total. In 1 year, he believed that the experts that Deluge Fortress invited definitely couldn't reach them so soon. Even if 1 or 2 arrived, it wouldn't have too much of an effect on the overall situation. Sword Emperor, none of the almighties from lineage of star are coming. Just the few of us with a few Dao soldiers. We will attack Deluge Fortress? Emperor God Jiuyin found it strange. Why? Is Emperor God Jiuyin afraid? Jian Wushuang smiled. I'm not afraid, but I feel uncertain. Emperor God Jiuyin shook his head and said, Sword Emperor, I'll be frank. If I find things not right when the fight starts, as in there's life-threatening danger, I will leave immediately. Although chaotic divine treasure is hard to come by, it's not worth risking my life for it. All right, Jian Wushuang nodded. But you have to give your all during the fight later. If your life wasn't endangered but you left or you made a groundless retreat, don't blame me for not recognizing your effort. You should know the outcome of being eyed by myself or my palace master, right? Emperor God Jiuyin's face grew grave, and his heart quivered in fear. Everyone had seen the massacre that Jian Wushuang carried out in the past. He had killed 2 emperor gods in public, and his name was well known. As for the master of Star Palace behind Jian Wushuang, he was even scarier. Many years ago, the master of Star Palace massacred, and the sight had struck fear into many. If he were to be eyed by the 2, Emperor God Jiuyin quivered at the thought itself. Don't worry, I won't leave until the very last moment, Emperor God Jiuyin said. That's great, Jian Wushuang smiled. Sword Emperor, there's a formation around Deluge Fortress. It seems that they immediately asked someone to set it up after they knew that you were going to come. The formation seems powerful. I don't think it'll be easy for us to barge in. Emperor God Lu Guang looked at Jian Wushuang. Let me take care of this formation. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Oh! Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiuyin looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. Let me send a present to Deluge Fortress. Jian Wushuang's eyes grew cold, and there was a scroll painting in his hand all of a sudden. Then, Jian Wushuang threw the scroll painting into the void above. The scroll painting blended with the universe and suddenly, the sky above made a drastic change. Virum. Boundless aura spread across. The sky above turned into a beautiful world. There were mountains and rivers in the world where birds sang and flowers emitted their fragrance. The most enchanting part was the 9 lofty continents in the world. Every continent was huge and boundless, and their lofty aura was shocking. The scroll painting world moved the universe, including the 9 lofty continents, above Deluge Fortress. The strongest treasure that Jian Wushuang held, Mountain River Map, was spread open. Chapter 1835 Welcome GIF. This is Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiuyin looked at the scroll painting world above them. They felt the magnificent aura that was given out, and their gaze fixed upon it. 9 province of the universe, Yang province as the seal, overwhelmed the rain. Jian Wushuang bellowed, and his palm swung to the void above. Rumble. The universe shook and a lofty continent descended from the scroll painting world, and pressed down. This power. Emperor God Lu Guang looked shocked. Emperor God Jiuyin was terrified. He stared at the lofty continent, as it pressed down at Deluge Fortress. In Deluge Fortress, in the spacious palace where Fortress Master Hong Tian and the other 13 Almighties gathered. Suddenly, a shocking power pressed down. The 13 Almighties including Fortress Master Hong Tian quickly lifted their heads. What's going on? Such terrifying pressure. What happened? The 13 Almighties immediately soared up from the palace in shock. After leaving the palace, they immediately looked to the lofty continent that descended from the sky above. Huge, the continent was too huge. The power that it contained was earth-shattering, and the Almighties were shocked. Oh my God! Is this punishment of God from above? No, it's going to hit. The lofty continent covered the entire Deluge Fortress. It first pressed against the formation surrounding Deluge Fortress. Fortress Master Hong Tian asked people to set up the formations within the past 1 year, and its power was terrifying. Under normal circumstances, even if 2 to 3 emperor gods joined forces, they would need some time till they could resolve the formation. Then, as the lofty continent descended, the entire formation was shaking vigorously from the pressure. After a while, it collapsed and shattered. The formation broke. The Almighties stared with their eyes wide. They then roared in the next moment. Be careful. The continent is pressing down at us. Quick, hurry up and block. Fortress Master Hong Tian Emperor God Bing Qian and the other 11 Sir Gods immediately took action. There were fierce auras exploding from the 13 of them. The ferocious attack hit the descending lofty continent like lightning. Bang! 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 There were deafening noises that rang continuously. It could destroy the universe. Along with the noises, the entire deluge fortress was covered by the lofty continent entirely. In the void, Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang, and Emperor God Jiu Yong stood as they watched deluge fortress from afar. Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiu Ying's facial expression were both very interesting. Sword Emperor, this is the welcome gift you gave to deluge fortress? Emperor God Lu Guang looked at Jian Wushuang. She could feel the power of the lofty continent earlier wasn't any weaker than her strongest hit, that she could perform with all her strength. It might even be stronger than her full-force hit. To be able to perform an attack of such level, Jian Wushuang's power. It isn't easy to perform this move. It's already great that I could perform it once. Jian Wushuang smiled. Then, he waved and the 9-province world dispersed very quickly and turned into a scroll painting in Jian Wushuang's hand again. Although Emperor Lu Guang heard Jian Wushuang say so, she didn't quite believe him. After all, when Jian Wushuang had performed the earlier move, he didn't look like he had had any difficulty. The formation has broken. Now it's time for a head-on fight. Jian Wushuang smiled. Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiu Yin looked forward, and the boundless divine power gradually dispersed and revealed the scene within. Under the weight of the lofty continent, the huge deluge fortress was crushed to the ground. The original fortress was replaced with a huge pit. In the void above the pit, there were 13 figures that stood there coldly. They were the 13 Almighties, including Fortress Master Hong Tian himself. Jian Wushuang had performed overwhelmed the rain with his full force earlier. Although it broke the formation surrounding Deluge Fortress and razed Deluge Fortress to the ground, the full pressure on the 13 Almighties didn't bring about any damage or injury to them. Even so, Jian Wushuang was content. At least his move had brought about a deterrent power to his enemies. Then, among the 13 Almighties, Fortress Master Hong Tian's eyes were bloodshot, and he was raging in anger. After all, Deluge Fortress was his lair. He had resided there all those years. Then it had been razed to the ground. Even though it had been easy for him to rebuild Deluge Fortress, it had been rather humiliating to have his lair razed to the ground before everyone else. As for the 12 Almighties behind him, they were all raging with anger. However, in the anger there was a faint fear. They were fearful of the power in the earlier move. Such terrifying power. Luckily, the 13 Almighties had teamed up, and they had Fortress Master Hong Tian, who was a peak Emperor God. If they were to be against him one-on-one, they might be gone without any trace under such power. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. There were 7 figures that plunged over from afar and appeared before the 13 Almighties. Jian Wushuang, Fortress Master Hong Tian, and the others saw the incomer, and they immediately clenched their teeth. Of course, they had already noticed Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiu Yin by his side. They were fine when they saw Emperor God Jiu Ying. However, when they saw Emperor God Lu Guang, many of their faces grew grave. Emperor God Lu Guang was a peak Emperor God, who was on a higher ranking than the Master of Star Palace and Fortress Master Hong Tian. But then, the peak Emperor God was standing with Jian Wushuang, Fortress Master Hong Tian and everyone. My welcome gift is quite good, huh? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but his voice was extremely cold. The asterisk starred. Fortress Master Hong Tian clenched his hand, and there was soaring murderous intention in his eyes. The Almighties behind him were all shocked. How is it possible? Jian Wushuang came so soon? Didn't he say in 10 years' time? It has only been a year. In only a year, he got Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiu Yin to help him? Forget about Emperor God Jiu Yin. Emperor God Lu Guang never gets involved in others' fights. What price did Jian Wushuang pay to get her to be here? The asterisk minute. The experts that we invited have yet to reach us and Jian Wushuang is already here? What to do? What should I do? The Almighties were panicking. Too bad. The scene was beyond their expectations. It was entirely different from what they had expected. Chapter 1836. War exploded. They assumed that Jian Wushuang definitely needed to prepare elaborately before he barged into Deluge Fortress. Plus, Lineage of Star would definitely turn out in full strength. Hence, they had been keeping a tight watch at Lineage of Star. They would immediately raise their guards when there was any movement. But they had never expected that Jian Wushuang would find 2 Emperor Gods as his assistants within a year and come directly. On top of that, he didn't use any power from Lineage of Star. Then, Jian Wushuang's sudden attack had caught them totally off guard. Why are you panicking? Fortress Master Hong Tian harumphed, and he looked around coldly. Although the formation has been broken and the experts that we have invited have yet to arrive, Jian Wushuang's team formation is only 3 Emperor Gods plus 4 war puppets. With our power, we could totally be evenly matched. As for victory and defeat, it is still unknown. The Almighties became confident when they heard him. It was true that Jian Wushuang's sudden attack was beyond their expectations, but the experts that had come with Jian Wushuang weren't many, including Jian Wushuang himself. There was only the fighting power of 3 Emperor Gods and 4 war puppets. They were 13 Almighties teamed up. There were 2 Emperor Gods too, Fortress Master Hong Tian and Emperor God Bing Can. They could totally be evenly matched. Then, the Almighties calmed down and their gazes grew cold. There was war and tension that suddenly soared from their bodies too. Emperor God Lu Guang, I shall pass Fortress Master Hong Tian to you. Keep him occupied, Jian Wushuang said. I'm doing this personally. He doesn't stand a chance to run free. However, are you sure that you only need me to suppress Fortress Master Hong Tian alone? Emperor God Lu Guang asked in shock. In terms of power, Emperor God Lu Guang was much stronger than Fortress Master Hong Tian. If she were to use her full force, not only could she suppress Fortress Master Hong Tian, she could even be involved with other battles. You can just focus on not letting Fortress Master Hong Tian run free. As for the others, Jian Wushuang smirked coldly and said, I'll take care of Emperor God Bing Can. The rest of the 11 Sir Gods will be taken care of by Emperor God Jiu Ying and the 4 Dao soldiers. No problem, right? 11 Sir Gods? Emperor God Jiu Ying creased his eyebrows. With 4 Dao soldiers, I should be able to match them evenly, but I reckon I can't sustain it for too long. You don't have to endure for long. A short while will do, Jian Wushuang smiled. If so, let's do it. Emperor God Lu Guang's gaze grew cold. Die! Jian Wushuang bellowed, and the murderous intention flooded out from his body like a rising tide. His figure burst out in an instant. Kill them all! Fortress Master Hong Tian let out an angry roar, and the 13 Almighties' aura spread vigorously as they took action at the same time. The war exploded all of a sudden. Fortress Master Hong Tian, your opponent is me. Her cold voice reverberated in the universe. Emperor God Lu Guang was like a flowing light, and her speed was terrifyingly fast, far beyond Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Jiu Ying's. She appeared in front of Fortress Master Hong Tian at the first instant. At the same time, a resplendent, flowing light burst out and aimed at Fortress Master Hong Tian's throat. Fortress Master Hong Tian's eyes dilated. He could belittle Emperor God Jiu Ying and also Jian Wushuang, but he definitely didn't have the guts to belittle Emperor God Lu Guang. Humph! There was a cold humph, and there were huge axes that appeared in Fortress Master Hong Tian's both hands. The 2 huge axes were filled with terrifying rage. They were a pair originally. Judging from their auras, the pair of huge axes were obviously chaotic divine treasures. As one of the huge axes swung out, the flowing light that burst out instantly shattered. Go! Emperor God Lu Guang pointed, and the glaring light lit up the universe. A white phoenix that showered under divine light substantiated. The white phoenix brought about threatening power that pierced the void and appeared in front of Fortress Master Hong Tian. Fortress Master Hong Tian's face grew in distress. Then, there was an ancient beast shadow that soared up behind him, and his divine body grew tremendously to 3 meters tall. His imposing aura had suddenly increased to a new level as well. He swung out two of his huge swords as though it could level mountain and blast cliff. At the instant when the power exploded, Fortress Master Hong Tian roared, "Emperor God Lu Guang, we bear no grudges against each other. What did Jian Wushuang offer you?" "Why would I tell you what he offered me?" Emperor God Lu Guang's voice was cold. "Regardless of what he offered, I'm willing to pay double the price for you to leave. What do you think?" Fortress Master Hong Tian said again. "Double the price? Hee, you can't afford." Emperor God Lu Guang didn't want to waste any time with Fortress Master Hong Tian. In her hands, there was a pair of crystal-clear white gloves. The aura given out by the white gloves was shocking. It was obviously a chaotic divine treasure as well. ***. Fortress Master Hong Tian's face instantly changed. When Emperor God Lu Guang and Fortress Master Hong Tian had fought, Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Jiu Yin, and the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers had been fighting with the other 12 almighties too. Emperor God Bing Can. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and he locked his eyes on one person. Jian Wushuang. Emperor God Bing Can's gaze were unusually cold. Die. Jian Wushuang's murderous intention flashed. Although there was a good distance in between them, there were suddenly 2 resplendent golden lights next to him. The 2 resplendent golden lights shook faintly and instantly pierced through the space-time. In the blink of an eye, they appeared before Emperor God Bing Can. Emperor God Bing Can's divine power churned, and he didn't dare to make any careless mistakes. There was a boundless chilliness that spread out of his body. The chilliness froze the surrounding void, and the surrounding tens of thousands of miles turned into ice caves while the Emperor God Bing Can was the ruler of the ice cave. A saber filled with chilliness appeared in his hands. The direction where his blade light pointed at turned into frost. The golden lights that burst out of the 2 Hong Yung golden sword collided with the blade light. Dang! Dang! There were 2 continuous clashes. Every clash contained a terrifying explosion of divine power that flowed out. After the clash, Emperor God Bing Can's body was the first that retreated, and he retreated by almost 10,000 miles. Such a powerful force. The 2 golden lights contained the impact of an Emperor God each. Emperor God Bing Can was shocked. He was on the 54th place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. There was some distance to peak Emperor God. However, he wasn't too far from it. When he fought with the peak Emperor God, he could withstand it for a bit. Hence, when he had first fought with Jian Wushuang, he had had no scruples. However, when he fought with him then, Jian Wushuang's power frightened him. The 2 Hong Yung golden swords equaled an Emperor God's power each. However, according to the information that he had obtained, speed was the scariest factor of Jian Wushuang's 2 Hong Jun golden swords. Chapter 1837. Breaking a piece of dead wood. Power itself is already so fierce. Just how scary can the speed would be? Emperor God Bing Can couldn't help but think. He had just thought about it when he got to experience it the next moment. The 2 Hong Jun golden swords that were pushed back from the impact quivered, then came in front of him again like electric arcs. The distance of tens of thousands of miles was almost instantly pierced by the 2 Hong Jun golden swords. Too fast. Emperor God Bing Can stared, and the saber in his hands was swung out again. Dang! 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 There were continuous clashes. Every single clash contained terrifying power that made Emperor God Bing Can retreat. Just as he steadied himself, Hong Jun golden swords flew over again. They didn't give him any chance to gasp for air. He had already gone all out, but under the continuous attacks of the 2 Hong Jun golden swords, he constantly retreated. Under continuous hits, his divine body was constantly attacked, and his injuries constantly worsened. Emperor God Bing Can, I came to help you. There was a loud roar, and a white-robed elderly appeared with a sword that suddenly increased in size like a lofty mountain, and pressed towards Jian Wushuang. The white-robed elderly was a peak Sir God himself. When he performed the stroke with his all, the power was sufficient to move an ordinary Emperor God. However, Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold at the sight. Go away. Jian Wushuang spat coldly, and sent a palm in the direction of the white-robed elderly. Read more chapter on VIP novel. Calm the palm seemed to contain the entire reincarnation. It instantly collided with the sword directly. There was a loud bang and the sword flew off, along with the white-robed elderly who turned into a flowing light. As the white-robed elderly flew off, he was spitting blood, and his aura grew dispirited. A top Sir God broke down under Jian Wushuang's palm. Emperor God Jiuyin, don't let those Sir Gods interrupt me. Jian Wushuang glanced at Emperor God Jiuyin in the void from afar. I tried my best. Emperor God Jiuyin smiled bitterly. Although he was an Emperor God, he had to fight with 11 Sir Gods with 4 Dao soldiers. Among the 11 Sir Gods, there were a few top Sir Gods. Although he wasn't afraid, the other party's headcount was higher. He had no choice if there were 1 or 2 Sir Gods who had the time to interrupt the battle on the other side. Humph! Jian Wushuang stared at Emperor God Bing, Qin in front of him coldly. The white-robed elderly interrupted, and gave Emperor God Bing, Qin a chance to pant. Then, Hong! There was an unprecedented chilliness that swept out from Emperor God Bing, Qin. Emperor God Bing Qin's face grew red, and the chilliness formed into a storm and swept out. Are you going all out now? Jian Wushuang's expression grew cold. When he saw Emperor God Bing Qin's aura soar, he summoned his willpower, and there was a golden light that instantly burst out in silence. Go away! Emperor God Bing Qin's eyes grew red as he swung the saber in his hand. Dang! There were 2 clashes, and the 2 Hongjun golden sword flew off from the impact. Emperor God Bing Qin's body retreated. Virum! Another strange golden light appeared in front of him on the way. The third one. Emperor God Tianqin stared. He didn't know Jian Wushuang had 9 Hongjun golden swords. The higher his comprehension of space-time doctrine, the more Hongjun golden swords he could use. Previously, Jian Wushuang's comprehension towards space-time doctrine had stopped at the peak of level 6. Hence, he was limited to using 2 Hongjun golden swords. But then, Jian Wushuang had received countless opportunities and benefits from the 6,000 years on the ancient battlefield. In terms of power, the one with the most improvement was space-time doctrine. He of course could perform the 3rd Hongjun golden sword then. D**nit. Emperor God Tianqin's face grew grave. Merely 2 Hongjun golden swords had already brought about great stress, and he was pathetically suppressed even when he gave his all. Then there was another one? How could he resist? Jian Wushuang's power definitely isn't at the level of an ordinary peak Emperor God. Emperor God Tianqin roared in anger, and his figure retreated. You want to flee? You don't stand a chance. There was billowing murderous intention in Jian Wushuang's eyes. There was a bolt of space-time power that permeated the air. Secret skill of ancient god moon-picking skill. Virum. The entire universe, and the entire space-time was pressing towards Emperor God Tianqin mercilessly. Emperor God Tianqin's figure was instantly restricted by the boundless pressure, and his speed diminished greatly. Even the actions of his hand became difficult. The 3 golden lights were like 3 death curses. They continuously plunged over at high speed. No! Emperor God Tianqin let out an unwilling roar, and barely raised his hand to resist 1 Hongjun golden sword. But the other 2 hit his skull, and his chest respectively. The armor on the surface of his body activated its power, but it was an armor at the level of chaotic divine treasure after all. Its defense power was limited, and he was hit directly. The sight struck many surrounding experts. Dead? Emperor God Tianqin was killed? How did it happen so quickly? It has only been a short while. Many Sir Gods were gawking in disbelief. They knew that Emperor God Tianqin was definitely not Jian Wushuang's match. However, there shouldn't be any problem for him to hold Jian Wushuang back. But in the end, how long had it taken? From the explosion of the war until then, it was slow in words but in actual fact, it had only been a short while, like 20 breaths time. Jian Wushuang's Hongjun golden swords had only hit a dozen times. In such a short time span, Emperor God Tianqin was killed by Jian Wushuang? It was like breaking a piece of dead wood. It was definitely an easy kill. To be able to kill the other party so quickly, just how huge was their difference in power? Sword Emperor. Even Emperor God Lu Guang by the side was looking at Jian Wushuang in shock. She knew of Emperor God Tianqin's power. Even if she were to kill him, she would require more time. To do it so smoothly and cleanly, like breaking a piece of deadwood, she couldn't do it. The 3 golden lights are Hongjun golden swords that made him gain fame, right? He could perform 3 of them. Every one equals a hit by a peak emperor god, and the speed is so swift. In addition to the secret skill of ancient god, moon picking skill, it is really difficult to run away from him. Emperor God Lu Guang complimented and acknowledged Jian Wushuang's power. Maybe he isn't as strong as I am. He is definitely much stronger than Fortress Master Hong Tian. Even if he were to compare to the Master of Star Palace, I reckon their powers wouldn't be far apart. In terms of hunting power, he is much stronger than I, the Master of Star Palace, and also Fortress Master Hong Tian. Chapter 1838 The Last Person. Hunting Power. It was true that Jian Wushuang's Hongyun Golden Sword and moon picking skill were closely related to space-time doctrine. As for space-time doctrine, speed was the most impressive factor. Jian Wushuang relied on the 2 techniques. As soon as he suppressed his enemy, it would be very difficult for them to flee. Although Emperor God Lu Guang and the Master of Star Palace were powerful, they would need to put in a lot of effort to kill a powerful Emperor God. Besides, they might let their enemy flee. They were definitely not as relaxed as Jian Wushuang. The moment Emperor God Bingkan died, Jian Wushuang was free. Then, Jian Wushuang turned to look at the 11 Sir Gods at the side. The 11 Sir Gods were fighting ferociously with Emperor God Jiao and the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers. Along with Jian Wushuang's flash of murderous intention, the 3 Hongjun golden swords instantly became 3 resplendent golden light under his control. Then they flew in 3 different directions simultaneously. Suddenly, the 3 Hongjun golden swords appeared behind 3 different Sir Gods. No! This! The***. The 3 Sir Gods' faces changed. Some of them were fighting with Emperor God Jiao together. Some were fighting with the silver-armored Dao soldiers. However, Jian Wushuang's Hongjun golden sword suddenly flew at them and didn't give them any chance to struggle. The 3 Hongjun golden sword instantly pierced 2 bodies. Although there was one who responded in time and blocked the attack. Hongjun golden sword contained the power of a peak emperor god. The moment he collided with the sword, the Sir God got severely injured, while the Hongjun golden sword only quivered slightly and continued its attack. It pierced the person's head. In the blink of an eye, the 3 Sir Gods were killed. My goodness! Too scary. We can't resist the golden swords. Run, hurry up and run. The remaining Sir Gods were terrified, and they started running away. They were originally forced to team up in order to defend their lives. However, dealing with Jian Wushuang's crushing power and his terrifying massacre pattern, they were shivering in fear. It had only been a short while since the explosion of the war, but Sir God Tian, Ken and 3 Sir Gods had died. At first, the team formation that could fight for a while suddenly had a great disparity in power. Plus, there was Jian Wushuang who was a killing machine. They had already lost their courage to continue the fight. However, although they wanted to run away, they would require Jian Wushuang's permission. Jian Wushuang flipped his hand, and there was a purple pearl that gave out a unique aura that appeared in his hand. It was a one-realm pearl. Die! Jian Wushuang moved with his willpower and boundless purple energy swept out from the one-realm pearl. It instantly covered the surrounding void of a few million miles. The Sir Gods who were ready to run were engulfed within. One-realm pearl turned into a formation with 1 willpower. Today none of you shall escape. Jian Wushuang's voice that contained shocking murderous intention reverberated in the few million miles void engulfed in the formation. The remaining 8 Sir Gods saw that their ways were blocked and they panicked. Such fear and shock turned into madness in a short period of time. I will fight all out with him. Even if I die, I won't let him leave in peace. Die! 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 The 8 Sir Gods' faces were distorted. They instantly turned around and charged at Jian Wushuang. Among them were a few that had billowing energy. Some were churning with magical clouds. There were 2 Sir Gods who had consumed a few elixirs, and their auras had increased tremendously. It was obvious that the 8 Sir Gods were going all out. It could be called a last chance. It could also be called a desperate fight of a cornered beast. Looking at the 8 Sir Gods' faces, they were cold and fearless. Emperor God Jiuyin, let's do this, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Then the 3 Hung Jun golden swords flew out first. Then he took a huge leap and drew out Blood Mountain Sword. Blood Mountain Sword that already transformed into chaotic divine treasure, displayed terrifying sword intention that could shake the universe. Even when 11 Sir Gods team up, there was nothing and you wanted to struggle when there are only 8 of you. Die. Emperor God Jiuyin smirked coldly, and his figure turned ghostly as he flashed here and there. The 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers followed. The experts from both parties instantly fought. The battle ended very quickly. In a short while, the 8 Sir Gods were killed. Among the 8 Sir Gods, there were 6 who were killed by the 3 Hung Jun golden swords. Sword Emperor, your golden sword is really scary. Emperor God Jiuyin looked at the 3 Hung Jun golden sword floating around Jian Wushuang, and he looked reverent. The fear of the 3 Hung Jun golden swords was seen in his eyes. It would have been okay if there was only one. However, the combination of 3, he couldn't resist. If he were to fight with Jian Wushuang, he could only opt for fleeing. As for he could escape, that would depend on his luck. Emperor God Tian, Ken and all the Sir Gods were killed. Now there is only one person left. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold as he looked to the other side of the battlefield. On the battlefield, Emperor God Lu Guang were fighting ferociously with Fortress Master Hong Tian. Of course, Emperor God Lu Guang definitely had the upper hand, and she suppressed Fortress Master Hong Tian. Swoosh! Swoosh! Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Jiuyin's body appeared on the battlefield. The 2 people who were fighting instantly stopped. Fortress Master Hong Tian was holding a huge axe in each hand, and there was rage soaring from his body. However, his face didn't look good. He had never expected the total of 12 Almighties, including Emperor God Tian Can. Such a great formation would be massacred by Jian Wushuang in such a short time. Jian Wushuang's power was much stronger than he had imagined. While the Almighties at his side had been killed while Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang, and Emperor God Jiuyin had maintained their full fighting force. If the 3 Emperor Gods were to team up, I'm in big trouble. Fortress Master Hong Tian felt in intense danger. Fortress Master Hong Tian, like I said, I will come to Deluge Fortress and kill all 13 of you. I never go back on my words. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. Fortress Master Hong Tian's face grew in distress. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and suddenly said solemnly, Jian Wushuang, if I were to swear now that I would stay at the border of eternal chaotic world from today, and as long as lineage of star is there, I will never step foot in the 10 sanctuaries. Would you be willing to let me go? Oh. Jian Wushuang smirked and said, if it was on Thunderbolt Island, and you said so before every expert of Sanctuary Alliance, I would consider it. But now, it's too late. Chapter 1839 Soul Burn. It's too late. Although it was 3 simple words, they seemed to have given Fortress Master Hong Tian his death sentence. It's too late. Fortress Master Hong Tian lowered his head, and he seemed to feel remorseful. However, all of a sudden, Fortress Master Hong Tian's body expanded fiercely, and his body was like a ferocious beast from the past, and it dashed out instantly. He then bellowed furiously, then you shall die first. Fortress Master Hong Tian's expression was hideous, like a cornered beast's. His hands then unleashed a ray of black light. The ray of black light was ice cold, and it headed toward Jian Wushuang's head immediately, with an infinite amount of coldness. The speed of the ray of black light was actually faster than the Hong Jun golden sword's extremely fast speed. I knew that you would do this. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned grave. He knew that an ancient existence, and an overlord like the Fortress Master Hong Tian, would not beg for forgiveness like an idiot when he was near a situation where he would die. His begging for forgiveness was simply to create an opportunity to use his own killing move. However, it was a pity that Jian Wushuang had already taken precautions against that a long time ago. The instant the ray of black light appeared, divine power emerged from Jian Wushuang's body, and he extended his palm. Ancient God's unique skill, 8 divine mountains. Bang! 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 8 lofty golden divine mountains landed in front of Jian Wushuang, and they acted as layers of defense. Although the speed of the ray of black light was unbelievable, it was not too powerful in terms of power. Hence, after piercing through 6 golden divine mountains in succession, it stopped at the 7th divine mountain. It stopped. Fortress Master Hong Tian's eyes turned scarlet in color. When he saw that Emperor God Lu Guang had already taken form in front of him, he turned his body to the back instantly and escaped hastily. Fortress Master Hong Tian had unleashed a secret skill to escape with all his might. As his speed was extremely frightening, he covered millions of miles of distance instantly and appeared before the purple formation. Break! As Fortress Master Hong Tian looked at the great formation which was formed by the One Realm Pearl, he gave a thunder-like roar and 2 giant axes swung out. For the 2 giant axes, both had the power to split the heavens and earth apart. When they were swung powerfully on the purple energy wall, rumble, the whole formation shook madly. However, it still blocked the attacks of the giant axes in the end. What? Fortress Master Hong Tian's expression changed. He was a peak emperor god, and the attack that he had unleashed was actually unable to destroy the great formation in front of him? It should be known that the great formation was obviously a treasure that Jian Wushuang had used, and it was formed in an instant. As such, logically it should not be so powerful. Upon seeing that, Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. One Realm Pearl is a treasure that I obtained from the ancient battle, and it came from the ancient past. Although it is not a chaos divine treasure, its worth and its effects are greater than that of a normal chaos divine treasure. For the great formation that the One Realm Pearl contains, if I were to unleash it with my current divine power, although it would be formed instantly, it would be considered the ravings of a lunatic if it were destroyed by one attack from a peak emperor god. Jian Wushuang had tested the power of the great formation from the One Realm Palace a long time ago. Even if it were him attacking it with his full power, it would still take him 2 to 3 attacks to destroy the great formation. As for Fortress Master Hong Tian, his abilities were not as strong as Jian Wushuang's. Let's not give him any chances. Let's attack together and kill him, Jian Wushuang said with a heavy voice. Leave it to me. Emperor God Lu Guang's eyes turned cold and dense white light gathered in her fair palms. A frightening aura was also gathering on her hands slowly. Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank. He knew that Emperor God Lu Guang was unleashing her killing move. Boom! The universe shook. After that, 3 brilliant lusters attacked while illuminating the surroundings. The 3 lusters were not obstructed in the slightest, and they even ignored the space-time. In an instant, they appeared in front of Fortress Master Hong Tian. Fortress Master Hong Tian was like a lion who was extremely furious, and he activated his secret skill. With that, the 2 giant axes in his hands expanded and he swung them fiercely. Bang! 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 3 loud sounds could be heard. What followed that were the sounds of Fortress Master Hong Tian spitting out blood. Before Emperor God Lu Guang's killing move, although Fortress Master Hong Tian was a peak emperor god, he was still seriously injured. Just then, a giant crack appeared at the top of the void abruptly. An infinite amount of purple sacred thunder was also gathering in the crack crazily, and it descended slowly with the power to destroy the world. Ancient God's secret skill, thunder attracting skill. Jian Wushuang's eyes were glowing with a black jade luster, and more than hundreds of life-destroying sacred thunder that had gathered in the crack fused together instantly to form a giant life-destroying thunder dragon. It then descended while roaring furiously, and it covered Fortress Master Hong Tian's body at once. As for Emperor God Jiuyin, he appeared quietly beside Fortress Master Hong Tian like an assassin, and a noiseless saber light headed toward Fortress Master Hong Tian's nape abruptly. Aha! All of you have forced me to do this. With a loud and furious roar, Fortress Master Hong Tian went insane completely. On his forehead and body, a vein emerged and it was so hideous that it was frightening. At the same time, the aura on Fortress Master Hong Tian's body rose again. Moreover, its speed of rising was extremely frightening. This is soul burn? Not good. Emperor God Lu Guang's expression changed greatly. Boom! With a loud sound, A fearsome axe shadow split everything in the universe apart, and also split the life-destroying thunder dragon, which had descended from the void above, into two. In addition, the saber light that Emperor God Jiuyin had unleashed dispersed instantly as well. On top of that, great portions of void burst apart like paper paste. Amidst this frightening divine power storm, a 3-meter-tall body which looked like a demon god stepped forward fiercely. The first person that he appeared in front of was Emperor God Lu Guang. Swish! An axe shadow descended. White lusters then appeared in front of Emperor God Lu Guang immediately, and they acted as protective screens. At the same time, she swung her jade hands abruptly, and her great amount of divine power formed a giant palm print to block the attack from the axe shadow. However, the shocking axe shadow swept past her unreasonably. The protective screens which were formed by many white lusters were smashed into pieces instantly, and the giant palm print, which accompanied them, also dissipated. Oomph! With a groan, some blood flowed out from the corners of the Emperor God Lu Guang's mouth, and her body was sent flying. Jian Wushuang, I want you dead. A hysterical voice reverberated across the universe, and the face of the 3-meter-tall, demonic, godlike body had already distorted to its maximum. However, one could still tell vaguely that the demonic, godlike body was Fortress Master Hong Tian. However, he had already become crazy like never before. Boom! After taking another step, Fortress Master Hong Tian, who had already gone insane, appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Swish! A giant axe shadow descended again. Sword Emperor, be careful! Emperor God Lu Guang warned immediately. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had not expected that at such a stage, Fortress Master Hong Tian would still able to use some techniques to unleash such fearsome fighting capabilities. However, fortunately, his reaction was fast, and he gathered divine power right away. The Blood Mountain sword in his hands then unleashed a frightening sword essence. Reincarnation Sword Principle, 4th move. Chapter 1840. The Last Counterattack. Bang! The loud noise shook the earth. Jian Wushuang's face grew dim. He could feel that the Blood Mountain sword in his hand was extremely unyielding. In the unyieldingness, Blood Mountain sword was slashed to the side, and the towering axe shadows containing some power hit Jian Wushuang's body. *T. Emperor God Lu Guang was shocked. Sword Emperor? Emperor God Jiuyin stared. Hong! A terrifying power spread like a rising tide. Jian Wushuang's body quivered, and then flew off like a bomb. He flew over 10 of thousands of miles before he regained his stability. When he steadied himself, Jian Wushuang's face was slightly paler than it had been before. Looking at the scene, Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor Jiuyin were astonished. Are you joking? Emperor God Jiuyin looked in disbelief. Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul power. It is the strongest attack that he performed with his all. Even Emperor God Lu Guang would have been injured if she took the hit directly. But Sword Emperor, the huge axe hit his body, and only his face turned pale slightly? That's it. How is it possible? Emperor God Lu Guang was shocked too. Such a terrifying hit. Even though Jian Wushuang had blocked half of its power with his sword, the remaining power theoretically could kill an Emperor God too. In the end, Jian Wushuang merely turned slightly paler from the axe hit. There was no bleeding, let alone spitting blood, or being severely injured. Read more chapter on VIP novel. His defense power was this strong. Jian Wushuang looked at the crimson armor, surfacing on his body in surprise. The crimson armor was originally blotted with rust. However, when it recognized Jian Wushuang's as its owner, it resumed its original look and became extremely eye-catching, like magma from a volcano. The reason why Jian Wushuang wasn't injured from the fierce hit by Fortress Master Hong Tian was because of the crimson armor. 5-gem armor. Senior Wu Hun really gave me a great treasure, Jian Wushuang muttered. The crimson armor, which was 5-gem armor, was something that had been relied upon by experts in ancient times. Jian Wushuang had obtained only the damaged 5-gem armor, and it could only perform less than 10% of its power. Even so, its defense power was far beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. Jian Wushuang had even thought that the defense power of 5 gem armor then was much stronger than the chaotic divine treasure level armor that Emperor God Tian Xiao was wearing back then. In addition to Jian Wushuang's strong divine body, because of his possession of ancient tribe bloodline, he also had 5 gem armor to protect his body. It would be a wild wish if Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul power with the intention of killing Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor, Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul in order to explode such ferocious power. However, he who is a peak Emperor God, his soul wouldn't be that strong. The burning of his soul wouldn't last long. We only have to drag him on for a little longer. By then we can kill him easily. Emperor God Lu Guang shared a message. I understand. Jian Wushuang's gaze fixed upon Fortress Master Hong Tian. He could tell that Fortress Master Hong Tian was totally fighting a desperate fight, like a cornered beast. Die! Die! Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang charged at him again. Then, the two of them didn't fight head-on with Fortress Master Hong Tian, but indirectly entangled with Fortress Master Hong Tian. As for Emperor God Jiuyin, his power was weak and any single axe hit by Fortress Master Hong Tian then could severely injure him. He didn't have the guts to bother Fortress Master Hong Tian, and he hid far away. D***men. Am not happy. I will not submit. Fortress Master Hong Tian roared. With the burning of his soul power, he wanted to hurt Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang badly. However, Emperor God Lu Guang was powerful and her speed was shockingly swift. Fortress Master Hong Tian couldn't touch her at all. As for Jian Wushuang, he was fearless. He was totally confident in fighting Fortress Master Hong Tian head-on. Even if he couldn't match him evenly, it would be impossible for Fortress Master Hong Tian to hurt him. In a short while, Fortress Master Hong Tian roared as his consciousness became blurry. It was the price to pay for burning his soul. One should know that soul was an Almighty's foundation, the core item. When divine body was damaged, it could be recovered with the aid of treasure. But when the soul was damaged, it would be a few times more difficult to recover. Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul in madness, and he couldn't stop when he ignited the burning. The final outcome would be the complete disappearance of soul. Hence, Fortress Master Hong Tian died. Although his soul power had yet to burn to the end, his consciousness had dispersed due to too much burning. Then, Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang stopped. They looked at Fortress Master Hong Tian's aura grew weaker in front of them. Then in the end, pust! A golden light burst out and Jian Wushuang's Hong Jun golden sword pierced Fortress Master Hong Tian's head, then shattered his divine body. An overlord, Fortress Master Hong Tian, who had reached the peak of Emperor God level, had died. When they that saw Fortress Master Hong Tian had finally died, Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang both let out a sigh of relief. Peak Emperor God is really not that easy to kill, Jian Wushuang sighed. Fortress Master Hong Tian, among peak Emperor Gods, wasn't considered the strongest, and he was only on the 36th place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. However, he had also brought about trouble for them, especially when Fortress Master Hong Tian had risked his all by burning his soul power. Luckily, Jian Wushuang had 5 gem armor to protect his body. Otherwise, his counterattack before his death would pay the price. Soul burn. Only an expert whose soul strength has reached a certain level could perform. He at least has to be a peak Emperor God to perform this move. And as peak Emperor God, only under one circumstance would he perform this move, which was when he knew that he would definitely die. He would risk his life to make a final counterattack in order to try his best to kill his enemy. The moment he uses this move, death is his only outcome, Emperor God Lu Guang said. Jian Wushuang nodded in silence. He also could tell that Fortress Master Hong Tian was already hopeless. He had no choice, that's why he had performed that move. Emperor God Hong Tian was a peak Emperor God. His soul power has reached the threshold of this move. However, he is too weak after all. Even when he performed this move, he couldn't bring about damage to us. If it were to be another peak Emperor God who was stronger, the outcome would be beyond our imagination. Or even if it were to be a great emperor who burned his soul in a desperate situation, that would truly be a horror, Emperor God Lu Guang said, and her eyes revealed a tinge of fear subconsciously. Chapter 1841. Abysmal Saint Master, a great emperor using soul burn? Jian Wushuang's body shook as well. With just a mere fortress master Hong Tian using soul burn, the fighting capabilities that he had unleashed were already so frightening. If a great emperor were to unleash this move, Jian Wushuang was totally unable to imagine how fearsome it would be. However, great emperor experts stood at the top, and in the eternal chaotic world, wouldn't there be no threats that could force them to that extent? Jian Wushuang asked. Under normal circumstances, it would indeed be impossible. However, in the history of the eternal chaotic world, there was a great emperor who was forced to the point that he unleashed this move. As a result of that, this great emperor fell. As for who forced him to this extent, it was Emperor Bai. Emperor God Lu Guang said. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He knew that Emperor Bai, who was recognized as the strongest person in the eternal chaotic world, had once killed a great emperor. In a situation where he had given up all hope, that great emperor would definitely counterattack by using soul burn. However, looking at it, even though he had used soul burn, he was still unable to do anything to Emperor Bai in the end. Instead, he had died in Emperor Bai's hands. Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang was having a discussion. All of a sudden, buzz. A powerful aura burst forth abruptly. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang, and Emperor God Jiu Yin looked in the direction of the source of the aura immediately. At a void by the side, a white-robed man had just rushed over, and he crushed a token right away. The powerful aura had come from the token. After that, Jian Wushuang and the two of them noticed that a dim black shadow was taking shape slowly in the void. After the black shadow took its form, the whole universe fell into complete darkness, and it was so dark that it looked as if the sun could not be seen forever. This aura, in the whole eternal chaotic world, there is only one person who has this aura. Jian Wushuang and the two of them looked at one another, and their eyes filled with fear. After that, the three of them greeted the black shadow together. Greetings to Abysmal Saint Master. The Abysmal Saint Master was the great emperor who ruled the Abysmal Sanctuary. At that moment, the consciousness body of the Abysmal Saint Master had descended. Jian Wushuang. A hoarse voice spread across the area slowly. All of a sudden, a pair of sharp eyes from the black shadow pierced the void and looked at Jian Wushuang fiercely. When he was stared at by that pair of eyes, Jian Wushuang's body could not help but shake. Oh, Lu Guang is here as well. The Abysmal Saint Master glanced at Emperor God Lu Guang. Emperor God Lu Guang bowed down immediately to show her respect. As for Emperor God Jiu Yin, Abysmal Saint Master was too lazy to even look at him. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang, all of you have fought your way into the Abysmal Sanctuary without even coming to greet me. Aren't you disrespecting me? The Abysmal Saint Master's voice was ice cold, and it was impossible to tell whether he was delighted or furious. The hearts of Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang felt chilly. There was no choice. After all, they were facing a great emperor, and it was not a normal great emperor. On the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, there was a total of 15 great emperors, and Abysmal Saint Master was ranked third. He was only inferior to the Red Dragon King and the Supreme Emperor Bai. Abysmal Saint Master, in front of many experts of the Sanctuary Alliance 1 year ago, I said that I would fight my way into the Deluge Fortress within 10 years' time. If I'm not wrong, Saint Master should have heard of this piece of news? Jian Wushuang said. I have indeed heard of it. However, hearing of it is one matter, and not greeting me is another matter. Abysmal Saint Master's voice turned heavy, and the universe shivered in fear. Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth. Let's cut the crap. I only came here to tell you that since the Almighties in the Deluge Fortress have a grudge against your lineage of star, you can go ahead and kill them, and I will not stop you. However, Fortress Master Hong Tian has stayed in the Abysmal Sanctuary for many years, and he can barely be considered one of my people. Hence, you are not allowed to kill him. Do you understand? The Abysmal Saint Master said heavily. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang frowned. After muttering for some time he said, Abysmal Saint Master, I'm sorry. You're a bit too late. Fortress Master Hong Tian already died. What did you say? Abysmal Saint Master's sharp eyes changed into two strands of lightning and swept over the area. The lightning struck the void beside Jian Wushuang and cracked open the void completely. However, Jian Wushuang stood upright at his position. Fortress Master Hong Tian has already died, Jian Wushuang said again. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor God Lu Guang spoke as well. Indeed, Fortress Master Hong Tian has been killed. How can it be so fast? Abysmal Saint Master frowned. The moment he got the news that Jian Wushuang had fought his way into the Deluge Fortress, he got people to bring his token and hurried to the Deluge Fortress immediately. Along the way, there was no delay at all, and not much time had passed since then. Looking at it from his point of view, in such a short amount of time, it would be impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill Fortress Master Hong Tian. After arriving at the battlefield, although he did not see Fortress Master Hong Tian right away, he thought that Fortress Master Hong Tian had escaped. However, he did not expect Jian Wushuang to kill a peak emperor god like Fortress Master Hong Tian in such a short amount of time. Jian Wushuang, Sword Emperor, you are really talented. Abysmal Saint Master was ice cold. Before I took action, I looked at the information of Fortress Master Hong Tian, and I thought that Fortress Master Hong Tian was not really related to you, Abysmal Saint Master. As such, I took action. If I offended you, I hope that you will forgive me. Jian Wushuang apologized. Haha, he has already been killed by you. What use is there for me to blame you? The Abysmal Saint Master laughed coldly. Forget it. Jian Wushuang. The Abysmal Saint Master's sharp eyes looked at Jian Wushuang again, and there was some coldness deep inside his eyes. For the matter this time around, considering the fact that you do not know of our relationship, I shall not blame you. However, I still have to warn you. For whatever you do in the future, you had better stay low. In this period of time, you killed quite a number of Almighties, and there are already many people in the Sanctuary Alliance who are dissatisfied with you. As you are a top genius, the Sanctuary Alliance is still able to bear with it. However, if you were to continue your massacre and overdo it, you might go over the limit of the Sanctuary Alliance. At that time, even if we have to suppress our grief, the Sanctuary Alliance will still send experts to kill a top expert like you. You had better look out for yourself. After giving a cold snort, Abysmal Saint Master's black shadow started to dissipate slowly. Farewell, Abysmal Saint Master. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiuyin bowed down and looked at the Abysmal Saint Master's consciousness body as it started to dissipate slowly. It was not until it dissipated completely that the three of them stood up. Haha, the Abysmal Saint Master can really hold his temper. Moreover, looking at it, he does not really like me. Jian Wushuang laughed. Dislike you? That's highly possible. Emperor God Lu Guang nodded her head. According to what I know, the Abysmal Saint Master has always been extremely envious. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.